I may have gotten a false start there.
Oh God, I just got it all over my desk.
I was going to ask you
grab
about
one of your
that.
cats or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm new at this.
That looks familiar, Jennifer. Yes,
Hey, at least I'm consistent.
that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Richard was
yeah.
fast.
Oh,
Yeah, look
sorry.
at him go.
Look at that.
Ooh, that's a
Nice.
nice pour.
Nice.
It's an
Nice
IPA.
job.
The beauty.
Cheers, ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
It's been a while since we recorded an episode, so it's nice to see you guys again. And Richard, thanks for coming on.
It's great to be on. Looking forward to this. I love the show.
You'll regret it in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, ask me later.
15.
I know it's going to take that
15,
long.
New record.
All right. Well, I am drinking a Pilsner because it's hot as fuck outside. And this is from Prost Brewing in Colorado. 4.9%. And doesn't say what hops are in it. But this is a brewery in Colorado. And I got these because my photographer buddy, David Farag, shipped these out as a gift. So shout out to David. He watches the show, so he'll see this. Boo!
Woohoo.
Thanks a lot,
Nice.
man.
I just got to meet David in the Tetons.
Yeah, and the Tetons.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that was exciting.
He was excited. He got to meet like tons of great photographers that morning. He picked the right spot.
He just happened
it
to be
was
there?
good timing.
Yeah, it was super random.
Wow.
I was walking out to meet up with a bunch of guys, and then he was walking in the other direction. He was like, Eric. And for a second, I didn't recognize him because I wasn't expecting him. And I was like, oh, David. But yeah, he just randomly rolled up on like Michael Fry, Joe Roshback, Mark Denny, Jennifer, Charlotte Gibb. Yeah. Chrissy Donady. Was Chris and Ryan there that morning? And David Akubian, however you say his last name.
Yeah, Akubian.
Yeah, a bunch of people.
Yeah,
That
he
would
was
have been-
super
Happy
nice.
lineup.
I would have been super scared if I was like just a year into my photography and I ran into all those people.
I would have turned around like, okay, yeah, never mind, just kidding.
Bust out your Polaroid.
No doubt.
Well, Paul, it's good to have you back. You had a little hiatus.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Was in rehab a couple times and it didn't take. So I'm back in the game. Thanks for signing me back up for a new season. Get it?
You renewed your contract.
I did. They said I spent 48 hours there, and they said you're out, dude. So, back in the game today. I'm drinking a 3-way IPA. I went to
You went to Brewhouse for a 3-way today.
Yeah. There's quite a few people there.
How'd the wife take that?
It was exceptional. It was kind of a weird scene, but yeah, they had a little release party today, and showed up and had a chance to taste it, and then bought some 4-packs. It's a collaboration between Fort George, Ghost Town Brewing, and Brewhouse. It's 8%, and it doesn't have the hops listed on this one either. So, but it's really good. It's they released their West Coast version of that about 30 days ago, and I don't drink a lot of West Coast beer, but it was good as well. I had a can of it, and this one's tasting great.
Yeah, that West Coast stuff is nice in the summertime. It's kind of like Eric's choice.
Yeah.
So is that one you're drinking brewed by Brewhouse or Fort George or Ghost Town or which of the three?
Fort George.
Okay, so they made like 3 different ones, but they're all by Fort George in collaboration with those 2.
Exactly.
I was wondering if Brewhouse was going to have theirs.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a plan for that or not. Typically, I think they all come out of Fort George. With the other every year they pick several different other brewers to brew this one. I don't know how many years they've been doing it. Probably 5-6 years, something like that. Maybe even more. So, yeah, it's something they release every summer. And usually they do 2 different versions. Usually they do a West Coast style, then they they come in a little bit later with the hazy style. So it's great.
Yeah. Jennifer, thanks for coming back. Nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's always so fun to join you guys. So I have something from Jimmy's neck of the woods, I've been told. This is Mortalis. It is a mango, strawberry, peach, and crumble smoothie. I am obsessed with these now.
How did you get that one?
I think Paul. This was one that Paul sent in his shipment.
Okay.
And then,
yeah, because I gave you one too, and I know you already drank it, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was gone. Yeah. Last week, because David said, I think we have one of these sitting at home still, because I was so sad when we drank that one and it was gone. It was.
Yeah. Well, that's what he said. He's like, I think I have this one. I was like, you probably don't, but even if you do, you won't be bummed that you got another one.
Yeah. No, because David's like, I'm pretty sure we took that out of Paul's box. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it's sitting in the back of the fridge at home. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah.
That makes more sense. He told me that he found it like at a bottle shop. And I was like, I don't think so.
He did. Here it is. But it's amazing. So it's a 7%. It's sour ale brewed with mango, strawberry, peach, granola, and coconut, and it is amazing. And I will be very, very sad when it's gone in like an hour.
Yeah, savor every last drop. Lick the glass.
Yeah,
I will.
That's a good one.
And you
guys
can
always
taste every single one of those.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Components to it. Yeah.
You guys always make fun of me for remembering stuff like this, but I actually drank that one on the episode that we had Hans Strand on, so it was a memorable beer. Yeah.
That was a good episode.
It was good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
We'll see how this goes.
Images.
Not going to compare.
You set yourself up for it.
Wow.
Sorry, Richard.
Jennifer is the only person on this panel that I've met in person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's that mean?
I don't know.
So what, he says. Yeah.
Hopefully something good. Yeah, I don't know.
You might want to keep it that way.
No, the Chicago Urban was the first time, right? We met at the airport and
Yeah.
rode in with Chris. And
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we met. Yeah, right after our flights got in, and then Chris drove us or he picked us up. Yeah. Gosh, that seems
really,
so long ago.
As a Canadian, I got royal treatment, picked up at the airport.
Nice.
Wow.
And then more recently, a Big Sur, right?
Yeah, then Big Sur. Yeah.
That's the first
That
time
was
I met
fun,
Alex
too.
as well, and William Neal.
Oh, yeah.
That looked like a
And
great
David
time out
Thompson,
there.
and so on and so on. Such great people.
That's quite a group.
Oh,
The
good.
entire team out of Chicago were just so amazingly nice. Just wow. Always
It's
really good.
I don't think they watch this, Richard. It's okay. You don't have to.
No, I'm being truthful.
I won't say anything. You're good. This is a safe space.
I'm only telling the truth. I'm not sucking up. But seriously,
Yeah, they're
really
all right.
nice people. That's my experience, and I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, no, they're good to work with. I've only had good experiences, and I'll be joining them next year for some stuff.
Until you
Fun.
meet Eric, Richard, and then it's all downhill.
Yeah, I'm the bad part about those conferences.
It all depends on the dynamics, right?
Jennifer's picking up her game. I love it.
Paul's just sitting back and watching me get roasted.
Like, okay, I think I missed a few things here. This is great.
First been the apprentice on
He's
here.
catching on.
Yes.
You got to scrap pretty hard.
What do you?
What kind of hop smoothie is that, Jimmy?
So this
Looks
is
thick and
something-
creamy.
Yeah, it's really nice. This is something new. I tried to get something new in here tonight. So this is from Wayward Lane Brewery, which is out of Schoharie, New York. So it's like halfway between me and Syracuse. So it's like an hour and a half away. So Richard, that would be like 4.5 hours away for you, I think. And Schoharie is near Schoharie. Really, sorry, Schoharie, but there's not much out there. But it's they do some nice stuff. This one is just a single IPA. It's a Cultivar Citra. And
It's a pretty can.
yeah. They all the cans are really kind of cool looking. Some cool artwork. I had another beer from them on Saturday night, and it was really nice. I wish I could pronounce the name of it, but it's evading me right now. But it's really nice work that they do. Looking forward to getting out there sometime.
Yeah, that one looks really good. I thought it was a Fidens from how creamy and thick it was. Nice color.
Yeah, the scores on it weren't really that great on online, but this is really pretty solid. So
What would you rate it?
almost like 4.25.
Oh, nice. That's solid.
That is solid.
Yeah, it's really good. Looking forward to getting out there this summer. On my way to Mortalis, I'll ship you a box, Jennifer.
Oh, oh my gosh. I told David, I'm like, then I would have a dealer on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Yeah, don't worry, Jimmy. I already committed you.
He kind
I
of
volunteered
did.
you. I
I
was
was
like, he'll
just
do
too
it.
shy to ask.
No, it's not a problem.
Absolutely.
So, Richard, aka Ricky Martin, what are you drinking, buddy?
This is an IPA day, so I have an IPA. It's called Juicy IPA, Hazy Days. And
Okay.
it's by Cowbell Brewing Company in Ontario. Lots of local stuff here. 6% alcohol. It's right near between Waterloo and Lake Huron where it's produced. And so the notes are, I'll hold the can up. The notes are mango, honey, papaya, and lightly sweetened malt character. So
Ooh.
Nice.
pretty nice.
Does it say which hops are in there?
It does. There's a lot, but it got me on that one. I can't read the fine print. But it has a mixture, but it's not as harsh as some IPAs. It's got a very sort of smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hazy, which is also known as like a New England style. So they should be a lot fruitier, smoother,
Right.
a lot less bitter. And yeah, that's mainly what we drink when it comes to IPAs. That's what we like, New England style.
Yeah, it's for me. I like that. Sometimes IPAs become a little bit. It's all personal taste, right? But a little bit bitter to me. But it's always different hops combinations. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So how many more of those do you need to drink for Dick to come out and play?
What the hell,
Oh, shit.
Jennifer? I know it started already.
I'm sorry,
Your alter,
Richard.
your alter ego, the potty mouth.
13 minutes. That's all it took.
Yeah.
Yeah. About that thing about the. Yeah, I don't know how many it would take.
We'll find out.
I'm a lightweight, so
We got plenty of time tonight, so
you'll just drag it on.
absolutely. We're good at that.
You're stocked up, Richard? This could go a minute.
Yeah, I'm stocked up. Like, I'm
So
ready.
you don't want
for
us
anything.
you don't want us to call you Dick?
Never.
Dickie?
Richard is a good.
All right. So what have you been up to?
Well, I've been up to putting out brush fires, doing a lot of setting up some presentations, doing some private workshops, preparing workshops for next year. Just keeping at it. I've been trying to upgrade my website, but I haven't made it to the galleries yet.
Yes, please do.
I promise I will. It's so embarrassing that it's so old. It's like I call
You have
it
like nothing on there, man.
I call it an abandoned warehouse, but I promise I will get that together.
Yeah, I'll see you post something like incredible on Instagram and like, oh, I can't wait to crack open a beer, sit back, go on my computer, look at it full screen, and then there's like 4 galleries and it's not in any of them, and I'm just like, I feel let down.
I'm so sorry.
Nowhere to appreciate your work bigger than a thumbnail on my phone.
Exactly. So I'm taking care of that, but it's not finished yet.
It's a disservice.
Priorities.
Where was
It's okay, Richard.
Where'd you last go? What was your most recent trip?
I was in. I did a private workshop in, or not a private workshop, a small workshop in Toronto recently. But I'm trying to think of before that. It's caught me there. I do a lot of travel stuff, and Oaxaca, Mexico was my last travel workshop. Yeah.
Dick's Private Workshops isn't a bad business name.
Pardon me? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It's a good thing.
These jokes are
matter.
just flying over me. By the way, I don't get sarcasm, so I just want to warn you.
Okay. It's going to be a bumpy ride then.
It's going to be real bumpy, yeah. I've got a couple of masterclass workshops coming up in Newfoundland and and Venice in later in the year. Doing something for Nick Stover again, coming up in July, stuff like that.
Nice.
All this just trying to get caught up on processing too. There's so many things to do. It's kind of weird because it's like you feel like you can't get to everything and you kind of have to prioritize it. But I always think of it as the brush fire that's closest to you have to deal with first. But time management is always a thing.
Do you make lists and stuff like to keep track of everything you have to do, or do you just try to like circulate it in your head?
I have to make lists. My personality is I have to make lists, or I get panicky from I have to see it on paper. I figured that out a few years ago. Otherwise, I'm just like trying to remember everything and I can't sleep at night and stuff. So just writing it all down in like the order that I need to do it in, that helps me a lot. Yeah, that's for sure.
Gets it out of your head.
Yeah, make a list of every beer I need to drink and like the date.
I thought you were cutting back.
I have been, but I mean, from where I was, like cutting back doesn't.
Are you down to like 10 a day?
He's getting close.
That's close.
That'd be a good goal.
Paul, what was the name of that place you were at?
Yeah, they have
Paul was tailgating before this.
Yeah, they have a friends and family deal. I'll get you in, Eric.
Yeah.
So you went to school for architecture, right? But then
that's my background. That's what I call it my real job in the past. I was an architectural technologist. So I worked 16 years in a design firm. It was a small firm, so it was the separation. Like there was architects, technologists, technicians, and anyway, it was a very small office, and it was interesting, but I kind of burned out. And
what made you want to get into that?
There wasn't enough creativity for me. Did you say why did I get into that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just loved architecture and the way buildings go together. When I was a kid, I always used to watch construction sites, and my father was a stonemason and a carpenter, so it kind of the whole architectural thing kind of got into that way. But yeah, so.
Did you ever read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand?
No, you mentioned that one time. No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's a fantastic book about architecture, but also just artistry.
Yeah.
It's really good. Highly recommend it.
There's a romantic idea about architecture, but there's a lot of utilitarian rules and restrictions and budgets. Not everyone gets to do the Frank Gehry stuff, but I really enjoyed it. But I didn't find it. I mean, if I was going back today, I'd probably like dive into be a graphic designer. But you don't know when you're younger what you want to do, right? But I couldn't imagine going back to it because I just don't. My heart's not into it. But yeah, so when I left 16 years when I left, I kind of had my foot in both doors of trying to do photography and doing contract work, so I could have a safety net.
Okay, and so. You kind of, from there, you kind of transitioned into photography full time? You didn't just go straight into it?
I did. Yeah. I used to do like these seminars for free in these conservation areas and stuff. And I really like teaching, I like helping people. So I did a lot of workshops. For more than 40 years, I've been doing workshops. I love teaching and helping people.
Wow. Nice.
That's way before you were born, Eric.
What's,
True story.
True story.
Thanks for the compliment. What's one of your like favorite locations for workshops?
Gee, there's so many. I mean, that's a tough one to answer. I know that Jennifer would have a problem probably answering that too.
Well, what's one that you like? You can't go a year without doing. Like every year you want to do it again.
Okay, that's simple to answer. Newfoundland.
And why is that?
It just rejuvenates me. There's something about the rawness, the primal part of the landscape. It's a World Heritage Site, and they call it the Galapagos of plate tectonics because it's like for evolution, like for rock formation, like the continental divide and the continents colliding and so on. All that's there for geology, and geologists study there from all over the world. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, geology. You would love that, Jennifer. You've been there, no?
I'm such a nerd. Yeah.
Well, aside from all that, it's just so good for abstract, and it's just everything. You can't explain it. It's such a Zen moment for me. So I would always want to go back there. I've been there like maybe 30 sometimes.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I know it really well, all the nuances and places to go. And of course, the weather's always variable. And yeah, but I love that.
Isn't Jason Pettit like over there in that area?
Yeah, he's only about an hour and a half drive from me in Prince Edward County, which is going towards Toronto. I'm east of Toronto, between Montreal and Toronto, but I'm at the very end of Lake Ontario. Yeah, I haven't met Jason in person. I've talked to him many times, but I haven't met him in person. I want to, and it's just I'm always busy and stuff.
Yeah. He's west of you. Did I get that right?
Yeah, he's so if I was going towards Toronto, I would zip over to Prince Edward County, which is you can take a ferry or there's a bridge.
Right.
But it's a beautiful area. But yeah, that's where
I remember he was in the critique group that you and I did together, along with Jimmy, or at least one of them. I don't know if they're both in the same one, but
I'm not sure.
I couldn't remember if you had.
Jimmy and I definitely remember. Yeah, that was they were both in that. It was great. Yeah. Fun.
Who else is out in that area that we might know of? You're the first Canadian we've had on the show, so.
Oh, really?
I think.
Yeah, you can give a little intro to your country.
Yeah, welcome.
Interesting.
Is Krista McEwish is out there?
Yeah, she's in Halifax area.
Halifax, okay.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, very amazing talent. Yes, there's a lot of photographers on the East Coast as well. I mean, there's lots on the West Coast and all over the country, right? So we're a big landmass, but we're a small population. I think we're probably the whole of Canada is probably equal to the population of California.
Wow.
So it's interesting. I'm kind of all huddled at the border, more or less. Not totally, but it's North America is an amazing landscape, and of course it's well used for urban areas too. But in Canada, there's a lot of vacant, empty spaces. So it's nice. I'll be showing you. I actually selected a few kind of Canadian theme. So we'll get into that later. But yeah, and I know that it was difficult to select because, first of all, whether they've been on before and or just trying to find an image that would good talking points. There's so much talent out there, and it's kind of overwhelming. But I know that more recently with Instagram, I kind of lost its shine a bit, and if anyone's noticed, I haven't been that active on it, but I will try and get back to it. But I just find it's almost like if you take your very favorite dessert, like for me, it's chocolate cheesecake, and ate it 3-4 times a day, you might not like it anymore, sort of thing. But kind of, I don't know, Jennifer, you feel like we talked about that before, and it was a lot of overwhelming.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I'm in the same boat. I'm rarely posting these days. And
I mean, I love the work, but sometimes it's just a bit much. I don't know if anybody else feels that.
So are you referring to like Instagram or just the flood of images that we like see now?
Well, I guess Instagram, because I mostly just look at that. I mean, it's the easiest thing, right? You just flip through and
super accessible.
So addictive. And I think, I form all my skills long before social media. And so all I was seeing of other people's work were books and magazines and museums and so on. So I kind of feel, I mean, we can't choose when we're born, but I kind of feel lucky that I had that opportunity to grow without a lot of stuff flying by me.
Yeah. And you got to live through the 60s and 70s.
Not quite that. Is he joking again?
You lived through the 70s. What do you mean?
Actually.
You like Black Sabbath and a lot of the bands.
I mean, I was weaned on Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and all that stuff, and I find it interesting that you were into that, but you're into Sabbath, right? I mean, I love all kinds of music.
1860s is what I was. Sorry.
That's when
Beethoven and Mozart and stuff.
That's when you would have been born, Jimmy.
It feels like it lately.
I think that was Blue Sabbath. They were in 1816.
Blue Sabbath.
But the Doors and the Who and all that stuff.
Great.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
And Rush, and oh my God, it just goes on and on. I have so many different playlists from different decades, and I love music, and I can't live without music. I like classical, jazz, whatever makes me feel great. And I just can't go a day without a bunch of it.
Do you play any instruments?
Oh, I used to play drums, but I'm trying to learn guitar, but I haven't had a chance to try that. I have a guitar, but it has no time until I get my website finished. But But yeah, drumming I'm fascinated with drumming and very primal.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm always drumming my fingers, and even with my dentist said, "What are you grinding your teeth?" I said, "I think I'm drumming with my teeth all the time."
You still have a kit set up, Richard?
No, I don't anymore. But my youngest daughter, just got in taking drum lessons, and because she lives in an apartment, she had to get electric set so she could practice. And I can't wait to play around on that.
Yeah, that's great.
But I think if
really
I did,
cool.
I mean, let's face it, when you're playing drums, you drive people absolutely crazy. You know, if you're not in the middle of nowhere.
There's no quiet. It's just loud. That's the only volume.
Yep.
Right.
You can't play them quietly.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
But it's very primal. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back when I was, before I was married, when I was single, I was living with my buddy and a couple other guys. And we one of them played the drums. I played the guitar. Another one played the bass. Another one played like trumpet. And we would jam all the time. And it was so fun. Like we'd spend hours like that, just messing around. Like none of us were that good, but it was just really fun to play. Like, especially when you have guitar and drums and like a bass, like it just feels really complete and it feels like you're actually making something.
Yeah. It's very healthy. Obviously, like any creative endeavor, it's healthy, and it sure beats the other stuff. It helps to modify it. Like also comedy is very important too.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get enough comedy, and I like to look at situations and find how can we find this funny?
Yeah, that's a healthy approach.
Surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah, not take anything seriously.
Yeah.
It's all good for you, and it's certainly better than fighting and arguing and yelling at people. Not that I would do that, but sometimes I get upset with stuff in the world, right? But it's
Just give me 5 more minutes. I'm getting under your skin. I'm working on it.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, I cannot picture like you getting angry at all. Like, I don't know, you're just so calm and laid back. Like, yeah.
I'm pretty chill, but
Maybe we'll see it in a few minutes, I guess. But yeah.
He got pretty upset during our critique group when I disagreed with his feedback.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
Here we go.
No, those are super smooth.
Eric's kidding.
I feel like you and I were pretty much on the same page, like with all those.
Yeah.
Those are really fun.
But they were fun. You're talking about your critique group, so we paired up on we did 2, right? There were like 5 hours.
At least
fun.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, we did 2. Yeah.
Then it's an acquired taste, so you'll catch up with him, Richard.
That's true.
What he means is it just gets better and better as you spend more time with me.
I'm gonna get to meet him. I'm gonna get to meet him soon. Well, not soon, but sometime.
It'll go by fast. Time goes by so fast nowadays.
Well, I hope not. But I mean, not for the sake of not seeing you, but
The time part.
Keep your expectations low, Richard. It's okay.
did I?
Just kidding.
What you do to Jennifer? She's a savage now.
Just pre-gaming before the show, for sure.
No, it's the smoothie.
Man.
I've never had a smoothie and a beer. I mean, that's interesting.
It's okay, Paul. This will probably be the last time I'm on, so I might as well enjoy it. Eric will be like, "You're out of here."
Yeah, go out without a bang, Jennifer.
You need Jennifer as a modifier.
Seriously.
Out with a bang. So, Richard, you've been doing photography since before I was born. What is it that still keeps you interested after all this time? That keeps your passion constantly renewed.
Yeah, that's interesting because I guess I don't have much for stats, but it's 42 years I've been seriously making images. And I love photography more now than when it began. So why is that? Because I just feel so free. And, I have the skills, the craft, and I find that I'm so free with exploring subject matter and different stuff like that it just gives me a thrill to use the camera. Something I need to do. I mean, making photographs and being creative is something that keeps you healthy, and just have to do it. So if I wasn't doing that, I'd be doing something else, artistic, sculpture or something like that. Which, by the way, I would love to do sculpture, but at least I'm smart enough to know I got to stick with I can't sort of get stuff done even with my photography because I'm behind in processing, and I just love making pictures, but I know I need to process them, but I get busy. Back before, I always divide everything between pandemic and now. It's like a pivot point and everything, fracture in my whole lifetime. And
Yeah.
before that, it was just going so fast. I was doing 7 travel trips a year from far away as Japan, Morocco, and all that stuff. And I was just so exhausted when I get home. I'm getting ready for the next one and so on. And then suddenly life gets so fast that I haven't gone back. I have some stuff from, I've been to Venice 16 years in a row. And I have some 1 year that I haven't even touched the processing on pictures. And I just thought I'd get back to it, but never did. And I can't wait to discover all this work in my files. I have it all on one big multiple hard drive. I have all my catalogs connected. So I'm excited about, and Brooks Jensen spoke about that in the Chicago conference one time, where if we all just stop photographing, we could spend a whole year just absorbing what we've done in our lifetime when we haven't had time to look at it seriously. I mean, one thing is grabbing a couple from a shoot and then, going with that. But sometimes when someone wants to buy an image they see posted, I'll go find it. And when I do that, I'll find all these gems in there I didn't even realize I had.
Yeah.
Cool. It's exciting, but I'm really excited about photography. Just like a kid, I'm like a 6-year-old with, more experience than that. But, and I don't really care about people liking my work. I just make images from the heart and I don't overthink it. I know the craft, but I would much rather trust my intuitive emotional response than I would an overanalyzed analytical thing.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to be in the moment and kind of let the pictures, the pictures find me, really. It sounds silly to say that, but I'm in that flow state where I just pick up my camera, turn the power on, and I don't even know what I'm doing. I guess it's almost like sleepwalking.
So if somebody watching this right now is listening to you and thinking like, oh, I would love to approach photography in that way, where I'm just very instinctual and just go off my intuition. Like, what do you think they would have to do to get to that point?
Well, they have to let go of all the noise that they've been told, and learn the craft early on, and then get on with the important part, which is the rest of your life, is the seeing and the creativity, and not being burdened by trying to please people and win accolades or whatever. Make the pictures for the purpose of being reactive to the environment that you're in, wherever that is. And that's how you find your style and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why I find that I don't like seeing so much work, although I love being inspired by work, right? But I don't want it to influence the way I see. And I think that, going back to your question about beginners or newbies to the photography thing, I think it's kind of unfortunate if you see something you like and then you go after that and it's stuck in your mind. It's your preconceived notion.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what happens is sometimes you have preconceived ideas of how things should look. And then when you're there, you kind of force that into your camera. But by doing that, you miss all the in-between opportunities. I guess confidence, all that stuff can only come with experience. Mm-hmm. So it's like learning a new instrument or whatever. I think obviously, you have to put the work in, right? And the time.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Definitely.
But you understand about the freedom part though, right? It's if you're just let's say you didn't my very first workshop like 40 years ago there was one guy in the workshop. This is a film, right? His goal in the workshop was
this is a workshop you gave?
Yeah. And his goal was, I asked everybody, what is your goals? What is your, expectations, so on. And his was, I want to make 36 images perfect, like award winners, as he would say, right? So, what is the problem with that? You're not going to take any chances. You're not going to risk making mistakes because you have
too much pressure. Yeah.
Grow. You can't grow without making mistakes. And if you're not making mistakes, and even with my experience, I'm still making mistakes, but I worry if I don't, because if I'm not growing. I always want to grow in my work. And I'm so excited about different things. And I love taking on the challenge of different subject matter. And
it also takes several months from the moment you actually take an image in the field to realize if it's perfect or not, or whatever, because
whatever it is. Yeah.
You need that time to go by to see how it ages and all that, and really evaluate it. Like when I'm photographing in the field, I never evaluate my images. Like all I do is I'll see something that draws my attention and I'll try to portray it in the best way I can with as few distractions as possible, with the subject nicely accentuated, the best, most complementary lighting possible. But I'm not thinking about whether this is a good photograph or not. I just, make sure it's in focus, this and that, and then I move on. And then later on, I'll evaluate my images, like I'll see which ones I feel like processing. And then once I process them, I'll be like, do I want to keep this or not after a few months of going back and forth on it. But I think sometimes people try to evaluate their images while they're creating them. And that can also get in the way of that freedom that you're talking about.
Yeah. So, okay. So for example, my first 25 years of serious photography was with film. So I had 2 camera bodies. One was loaded with black and white film and one with color slides. And, I didn't get to see my work when I made pictures of it. So for example, today with digital, I don't really keep looking back because I'm not used to doing that.
Yeah.
And I just shoot and move forward. So, because if I keep looking back as I'm doing it, obviously you might have a quick look at things, but I don't overly study it because I want the flow to keep going. So it's almost like that sleepwalking thing where you just go out. So honestly, I've gone out in mornings where I don't even know what I photographed. I mean, it sounds really silly, but it's true.
No, totally.
I'm so sleepwalking with it that I don't. And then later I load it up, and some are really good, and some are not so good. But I would be worried if everyone was good.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Like I'll be reviewing files, and I'll be like, when did I even shoot this? Where was I standing? That happened with the cover of my book, actually. Like it was just a single exposure I took while I was hiking in the morning. And then later on, I kind of realized what I had, but it was just something that happened super fluidly. I just pointed at it, took an exposure, kept moving. And so luckily it was all in focus, like the skills that you have to work at, those were all there. So I was able to make a sound image without putting much thought into it. But yeah, I definitely have those experiences quite often.
I think we're emotionally tied to our work. And that's why, if we develop it right away, which is what you want to do, sometimes you're excited about it. I think you're so close to it that it's good to give it a little bit of time to ferment or whatever it's called. Distill.
Yeah.
Ferment.
Ruminate.
That's a good pun.
Yes. Marinate a little bit.
Yeah, right. It was funny though, when you reviewed my image a couple of months ago, I think it was Paul that was saying he'd like to get into my mind as to what I was doing. And it's interesting to hear that because I wasn't even thinking about what I was doing. It's just
right.
Okay, here's an example. Let's say I used to play tennis and I love tennis. And, when you're practicing, like you can have balls hit towards you and you just keep hitting the back and you just do it. And you put the spin on it, you do all that stuff, but you're not thinking about it. You're just doing it, but it's based on experience, right? And I think that experience is educated. Yeah, it's a flow, but I think that experience is based on your educated imagination from studying your results over the years, over time, and also studying other work. Like for me, the way I see the world, and people think I see differently. I don't even know what they're talking about, but I'm inspired by paintings, right? I mean, and I remember William Neal mentioned about how quickly I could find compositions, and I don't really think about it, but the way I see the world is really influenced by painters.
So maybe you have a large database of different paintings and compositions within them. So sometimes you kind of notice things fall into the same templates while you're in the field.
Well, it's not quite like that, but it's under the influence of thinking about that. So it's almost like, coffee tasting, wine tasting, all those connoisseur stuff. And it's all based on references and just being exposed to good work. So how do you know if you hadn't studied abstract expressionist painters or realist painters or so on and so on, how do you know the difference, right? And not saying that it's subjective what is good or bad, but whatever speaks to you, then you form that sort of thing. I think architects do it with design. And I think that obviously music does that too. You ever hear songs and you hear these similarities in other songs? Not that they're necessarily consciously copying it, or you're under the influence, right? Unless you live in a cave and never see anything, how are you not going to be influenced by something? But it's the way it filters through you is what makes it important.
Well, that's why I was surprised. Like when you said sometimes you kind of avoid looking at work because you feel like it can kind of set you up to like chase the same thing or something. Cause like obviously all of us on the show, we love looking at other work. And the way I see it is like being influenced by work doesn't mean you're going to go and try to replicate it. I think that's something different. I get influenced by stuff and I love being influenced by stuff, but it's like, I always take those ideas and it's like, oh, I think of a new scenario. I can apply that same idea that nobody's done before or stuff like that. You know, like it just kind of sparks new ideas for me from seeing what other people have done rather than like being derivative of what they've done.
Yeah. I don't want to misunderstand or have people misunderstand me by saying I don't like to look at work, but I love being inspired. Mm-hmm. And we all acquire a taste, right? I mean, our taste is based on our life experience. And I like that, building on that and actually allowing it to be changeable too, right? Just what you like 10 years ago doesn't mean necessarily what you're going to like now because you've grown from there.
Sure.
But all that stuff gets intermixed and it comes out in your way, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that anybody's copying. I'm just saying that it could be a hindrance. Like sometimes when someone's going to a location, they might study that place. And I think there's a danger there of that getting in the way of your own sort of possibilities, right? Look at that nice pour.
I know, look at that.
Let me show you how it's done right here.
Oh, Modern Times. That's one of my favorite places down in Encinitas.
Actually, that's a huge head. That's pretty bad for an IPA. I think I shook this up too much. Let's see.
It's a rookie pour, dude.
Thought I let it sit for a while.
Can you just shake it before you pour it or something?
Well, I did shake it up. You have to. But
I have a question. Has anybody ever spilled beer on their? I guess your keyboard wouldn't be near your.
Yeah, I've spilled on mine. We've all spilled for sure. Oh, yeah. My keyboard's right here. I'm on a laptop, so yeah, I'm pouring right above my $4,000 laptop.
That's confidence.
I got it all over my desk today. Like confidence. I can see it. Yeah.
But doing that 10 times a day, it gives you a lot of practice.
That's right.
Burn. Hey, Richard's firing back. I love it. Here we go. Boom.
Paul's sending me what to say. He's texting me what to say.
Like, hell yeah, it's time to cut that guy. Let's
Close
go.
monitoring.
That's a really great way to break that down, Richard. I like that that whole conceptual breakdown you had there. It's great.
I don't know if it works for everybody, but I really notice that when I teach people a lot, and I notice that preconceived notions and rigid thinking is really detrimental to your flow of creativity. I don't know, Jennifer, if you've seen that on workshops.
Yeah, for sure. And I would just want to go back. I like your point. I mean, I've always told David, I said, I think a lot of people get confused with inspired and influenced.
Right.
Like there's a distinction between the two. And you can, I mean, I think it's great to be inspired. And like Eric was saying, go apply that to like something else that you're, doing, or all of a sudden it like, literally motivates you to see something a different way versus like being influenced and like going out and copying that. I was actually just juggling these thoughts around a few days ago to write a blog post about this. So maybe I will when I get done with my 20,000 other things on my checklist.
I think I could relate to Jennifer on this. I wish I had Eric's efficiency.
Oh my gosh, I say that all the time. Mean? I don't know how he gets. Well,
you're just done. You're like an efficient machine. Just wow.
Why do you say that though?
Oh, I think you get so much done and so quickly and.
Yeah.
Like what?
I'm a daydreamer.
like those beer, that first
crushing 10 beers by noon.
That was very efficient, you bastard.
Yeah.
I'm feeling under pressure. Eric's already got 3 beer down already.
He started tailgating at like noon.
He didn't. I was really busy working on a project this morning, so I didn't start drinking until the show. I was thirsty.
What'd you crack open there, Bennett?
So this is one from our buddy Jimmy Tran that he threw in our box. It's from Boss Rambler. Never heard of them. Boss Rambler in Bend, Oregon.
Yeah,
you know
dude.
Them, right?
Yeah, I know them well. Yeah.
So this is Fog Wild. I guess that's the name, Fog Wild. But it's in collaboration with Humble Sea. So that's how he got it, I guess, because he brews at Humble Sea. So there's a 6.5% hazy IPA. And this one has Citra, Motueka, and Galaxy hops. It's for their 5th anniversary.
How is it?
I haven't really gotten to it yet because I'm trying to get through the foam so I can pour the rest. Kind of botched it.
Was that part of the pallet that dropped on your driveway the other week?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the most massive beer package I've ever gotten. My wife was like, "What the heck is this thing?" Because I was still driving home that day. And
She's like,
Why
"Why
remember
is
for that place that Paul went to?
He's like, why is there a forklift in the front yard?
Eric, is it true that drones deliver the beer to you?
Yes.
I don't think they can lift the weight, but maybe one day.
That's
Well,
not
by the
a
way,
bad
Good
idea.
idea.
I have a delayed answer to Eric's question about hops. The one that I was drinking is Galaxy Hops, Mosaic,
Oh, yeah.
And Citra?
Adriana, and El Dorado hop in that one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's a
That's a
lot of
nice
hops.
run.
Pardon?
Oh my gosh, everybody's on their like second one. I need to catch up.
Well, I started out with light. I was basically water.
Feeling the pressure. Feeling the pressure.
Was that Bud Light, Eric? Or
Nice.
Yeah.
you know, we
Easy,
used
buddy.
to call that.
That was a cheap shot.
I know. I'm
Richard's
sorry.
coming alive. I like it.
I'm sorry, but that wasn't. I just got that message from Paul.
He's
We had a
gonna,
name
he's gonna
for
mute me in a
Bud Light.
minute. He's gonna be like, Bowman, yeah, come on.
When I was a teenager,
Bring
we
it
had a
on.
name for Bud Light.
What was that?
Mule piss.
There you go.
Yes.
Very appropriate.
Love it.
I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
I cracked one as well.
Yeah,
I did it's a Dad's in Cashmere. And this is a triple hopped. I'm going to pick up my game here. It's triple. It's a dry hopped hazy IPA. It's from Green Cheek in a collaboration with Other Half Brewing. I don't have the hops listed out.
How'd you get your hands on that? Because they're in Costa Mesa.
Yeah,
Buddy.
someone a guy I know that lives down in he was down in Southern California. He just shipped me up a box. Shipped me up 4 packs, and I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Nice.
Their stuff's
He's like,
awesome.
he's like, I hope you like this, and I'm like, yeah, it's fucking great. Thanks,
Yeah, their
dude.
stuff's awesome. I haven't, I don't know anybody that lives by them anymore. So I don't get their stuff anymore, but
By
He,
Green
tra-
Cheek.
he travels a lot, and he was at Monkish.
yeah, and
The other
Torrance.
day, he's like, hey, you want anything from here? I'm like, yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah, they're good too. Lately, their stuff has been really good, apparently.
Yeah, I just don't. I'll see it on draft sometimes, like at Belmont Station. But
Yeah.
I just don't see cans up here. So it was,
Nah, yeah, they don't distribute at all.
Might be able to bribe some folks Green Cheek for Fidens or something.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, that's not a bad call. But it's really good.
I'll just put up all the stuff I have labeled for Eric.
Yeah, it says EB on it.
So, Richard, there's like a whole beer community that exists where people like trade beer and stuff because everyone like has access to different things. And so there's like Facebook groups and things where people like post what they have and what they're looking for, and then you can trade with them and stuff. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
It's amazing. I love all the microbreweries because it's just so much choice compared to the old days.
Sure.
Wow. It's just amazing. And in Canada, I mean, where I live, I mean, there's in Ontario, there's like countless numbers, and they don't always make it to the mainstream stores. There's so many. I was sampling one. I couldn't get it because I would have to drive to get it. I didn't have time, but there was one that had infused with maple, and it was. When I was at the restaurant or outdoor patio, and the guy said, "You can try it. If you don't like it, won't charge you for it." And I said, "Well, it's okay." But I thought it would be. I was expecting the maple to be overwhelming, but it wasn't. So,
Was it a stout?
it was a stout. Yeah.
Yeah, a maple and stout.
Oh man, and those coffee tones as well, right? And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and the wheat stouts as well are really good. So there's so many of those available, and I love the artwork on the cans, and some of the breweries are really really small, which is kind of cool. I like to support them.
It's a cool culture.
Yeah,
Canada grows some amazing. I mean, you guys grow amazing rye and
yeah,
barley and
a lot of land for that.
of course, yeah.
You like
And good
stouts?
maple syrup.
You like stouts, Richard?
Oh, I love stouts. I mean, I'm a red wine drinker primarily,
Yeah.
And, you know, I have been getting back into beer, even more so watching Brews and Views. That's one. It's amazing how that influences you. But yeah, so, you know, the old stouts, like when I would do trips in Ireland and stuff and all the pubs, and, you know, I just love the Guinness and the stouts and even the porter. I love all those. I call them, like, I say there's 1 full gram of protein in each glass. And it looks like chocolate. You know, it's so black, right? It's like,
Eric,
it's like a winter oil from your car, right?
Eric, I'm going to send him some double stack.
Yeah, that one's awesome. If you like maple syrup.
Rich,
cool.
It's gonna blow your mind.
It's a favorite among the 4 of us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got.
I have some in the fridge right now.
Yeah, it's good. I'll get your address offline and I'll send you up some of that stuff. You'll love it.
That'd be cool.
It's just international, so I'm not sure how that works going across a border. I know people do it, but I've never done it.
Yeah, that could be tough, man. It's like we have this 20-foot plexiglass wall between Canada and the US for shipping. Just joking, but it just feels like it just feels so crazy with, you know, driving over the border and you're flying. It's like interrogated, and even for shipping books and so on and so on. I don't want to be wanting, but it's so, like, any book I see online, I just multiply it by 3, and that's what's going to cost me when I get it.
Really?
Just because of foreign exchange, duties, and the shipping and all that stuff. It's crazy.
That's a shit.
It's supposed to be free trade, but I don't know. It depends on what it is, I guess. I don't want to sound whiny, but it's tough. That's a fact of life.
You can whine about it. I would whine about it. We pay nothing for shipping in the US, so we're very spoiled.
Great. Oh, and you know, the UK as well, right? I mean, isn't the UK kind of, for your shipping your books and stuff, is that expensive as well?
It's expensive to ship anywhere outside of the US for me, yeah. And then they have to pay fees on top of it, courier fees and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, it depends on what company. If I use UPS, it's the highest rates in the world, then FedEx is lower, and Canada Post or the mail people are even the lowest.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think USPS is fairly reasonable to ship stuff from here to Canada. And I don't know if they charge the carrier fee or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's included in the price.
I'll have to do some.
They should take duties off everything that's related to art.
I was looking at a book out of Sweden. So as a photographer, we mentioned at least once or twice Eric Malm out of Sweden. It's a beautiful new book, but it was $100 to ship it. You know,
To ship it?
it's like $100. I was like, killing me.
That's crazy.
That's so
I
ridiculous.
may do it anyway because it's such a beautiful book. But
I decided on this second book because the first book I saw so many people pay $60-$70 for shipping, depending on where they were in the world. I decided to take a hit on a little bit of the profit, and I capped it at $40. So I'll pay the rest after they pay that. If it's unless their shipping obviously is cheaper than that, but nobody has to pay more than $40 for my new book.
That's
awesome.
really nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
it's hard. I mean, it's frustrating. It shouldn't be that much.
No.
Yeah.
They should make everything
crazy.
that's art, everything related to art should be free duties.
Yeah. And education.
Just saying.
Yep.
Because we need art in the world. That's what makes us healthy and happy.
Yeah.
But speaking
And-
of artwork, I
Savages.
got this new can open here.
Wow.
It's a
What
kind
are
of a
those?
So it's
Broccolis?
cheddar, it's broccoli with cheddar
That's
cheese.
what
on
I
it.
thought it was. I was like, there's no way that's broccoli.
So there's no
half,
broccoli or cheddar in this one. But this is other half that Paul just cracked a collaboration one. So out of Brooklyn. This one was brewed in the Finger Lakes, though. I believe, if I read that right. No, I don't know where it's not in the Finger Lakes, but it's a double dry hopped, and it's got a real mixture of hops in here. But it's one of their classic ones, and it was brewed at the same time as the other one from that I had earlier. That guy.
How is it?
Here, hold on. Let me try to show you my cat.
Oh,
That's a monster.
He's sneaking up on him.
Oh man, I love his cat.
his cat.
What? You
She
coming
ran
back?
away.
No,
She ran away.
Come on,
He's like-
dude.
she's like, peace out. There's no way.
She started going faster and faster as I got closer and closer. She only runs like as fast as she needs to. She's like,
yeah. They know.
I got this guy. He's been
yeah.
trained.
She doesn't just like take off. She'll just like slowly pick up.
Yeah.
You probably don't remember, but in the old days when we didn't have cell phones and you have a cat and the phone rings and you jump out of the chair to run to get the phone and the cat jumps up and runs between your feet and you almost fall down. I always wonder, why do they do that?
Yeah. Going
Just
up
wanna
and
mess
down
with you.
stairs too. They like to like,
Yeah.
go right through your legs.
They'll wait
Yeah.
for the last second to like try to squeeze through.
Yeah.
They're trying
They're
to
little
take you
demons.
out is what they're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Exactly. There's
This
like a
reminds
really
me-
good meme about that, like how their entire
reminds
plan
me of
is
Gary
just to
Larson.
be evil.
Gary Larson, my favorite cartoon with Far Side, he always uses animals and human thoughts or human situations, and
Oh yeah,
it's funny.
yeah. Farsight's great.
That's a creativity test. If someone doesn't laugh at the Far Side, I know they lack some creativity in their mind.
Yep.
That's a good barometer.
Also, probably somebody you wouldn't get along with. But
Yeah.
Right.
Good way to frame it up.
So this is my selection with Robert. I discovered him on Instagram during my time on Instagram was more involved during the pandemic because I had time, right? And I certainly took a liking to his work and kind of related a lot to it. And so I chose this image just because it's just so different and such energy, and I love the repetition of lines and the movement in the picture space. And if you look at his Instagram feed, I don't know if anybody here in the panel has been following him. I think Jennifer has followed him, but I relate to him because he does more than nature, but he does it's kind of like what I do is urban things and extremely abstract color designs and stuff like that. But I thought this had a lot of wonderful energy and movement, very dynamic in its asymmetrical positioning of the elements in the picture space. You have that your eye goes to the upper circle, the center of that circle, but it's visually balanced by that really interesting shape on the bottom left side. So you get that referred to as visual ping pong or relationship of elements in the picture space. And that's something I always try and instill in my participants or students, that instead of relying on rules, think about how things relate in the picture space when you're making a composition, making a design. And so you have a central idea, and you just sort of think of, if you create, basically balance is dominance and check. So if something dominates, then you have another motif that entices your eye to do that ping pong back and forth. So that's my take on this image, and it would be wonderful black and white as well. But this nice little texture from the very edges of side lighting on the textural part, where you have the little tiny black lines, which help to delineate that, which is contrast is always good like that. So so I don't know what everybody else has to add to that.
The dimension in the bottom left corner is crazy. Like it kind of flips back and forth, like whether it's receding or advancing. Like it's hard to tell if it's like on top or in, if it's like convex or concave. But it also reminds me of like rice terraces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, the
Super
lack
crazy.
of context here is really cool. Like at first glance, it's like my mind says, oh, it's, a tree, or, these are the rings. But looking at it again, it could almost be cliffs, like rocky fjords. Like there's just so much. Yeah, I love the lack of context, because your mind
like
can
a
take it
glacier.
so many different ways. Yeah, for sure.
Really good
Super cool.
If you look at his work on Instagram, and he has some interesting comments too, and I very much relate to him. But his answer to someone's question, this was quite funny, that someone asked him, I believe, what he used and what equipment he used, and he said, hey, my eyes. I thought, I definitely even like him even more.
I love that.
That is like, okay, that just makes so much sense.
It's funny because it almost kind of sounds like an asshole comment at first, but it's actually very honest. Like that's
I think
completely
it's
true.
an honest comment. Yeah. So, I think that's an interesting thing to bring up. And if we had a level playing field where Everybody knew the craft exactly the same. And then all we had to do was frame compose through our viewfinder. Then
I would be out of money. I would not be making a living.
I'd be out of money.
so that's interesting.
This is really great. I love the textures on here. I mean, it looks like a topo almost, and it's great selection, Richard.
There's one thing that, as photographer and looking at the framing of the image, and we're working with physical objects, so not like we're painting or drawing them. And the very, very small point is that little bit of shape on the extremely left edge as you come down against the dark. Mm-hmm. So I'd almost have a tendency to want that really unique shape that's like an island there, which is set in from the left bottom, to not have the competition from that light area, so that it was just dark going to there. What do you think?
Just have the shaded area meet the edge?
Yeah, I mean, it's just physical stuff you're dealing with, but I mean, that is something that I just want to point that out because it's the kind of thing how I would think when I'm composing in the field.
Yeah.
We have restrictions, of course, because we're dealing with physical stuff, but
then you see somebody else kind of break your rule and it works, and you're like, huh, like, that's not something I would have done, but I just mean like those kinds of things that you avoid, but then, you see other people embrace it or do it differently. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I wouldn't have thought that would have worked, but it does.
I think the most important thing is that people think about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, my problem, I have a big problem with rules, and not that rules shouldn't exist, but I find that people are enslaved by them, and they force things into the rule of thirds, and so on and so on. So look at how interesting this is dynamically, because you have that upper centrifugal thing that goes on in the upper right corner. And then you have that the balance between the bottom motif as well, which is extremely interesting, surrounded by the darker tone. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool.
Super cool.
No, it is for sure.
Do you not think there are any rules whatsoever?
No, in fact, I've worked so hard my whole career to almost eliminate them from my mind.
So none. You can't even think of one thing that is a rule.
No.
What about like always needing a subject? And by that, I don't mean a literal object. I just mean like an idea that the photograph is about. It could be literal, abstract,
Yeah, well, that's not a rule. That's an intention, right? Or intent.
But there are definitely people that take photos without subjects, like photos of nothing or snapshots where it's just like,
maybe I misinterpreted your question.
No visual hierarchy. I think you always need visual hierarchy. You always need the most important idea.
Okay, what I'm speaking about are the rules of design that are so entrenched in camera clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was just trying to go beyond that and just entertain the idea of like maybe there are some rules.
Well, of course. Well, sure. Yeah. I'm speaking from the experience of an instructor for many years, seeing the damage. And I actually I wrote for Photo Life magazine for 16 years, and mostly about creativity and design, visual design. Mm-hmm. And over the years teaching, I've seen that when, interacting with people, like I said, this is back in film days. I had my tripod set up and I'm having people look through my viewfinder at a composition. And one example was I had something right down the middle, but it subdivided other things in the picture space. And this woman said, I absolutely love this picture, but I didn't know you could do that. I said, what do you mean? But you put this right in the middle. And I heard this over and over and over again. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, I want to open up a rehab clinic.
Yeah, Paul will be your first customer.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, right. Well, design rehab, right?
But what's funny is like I've seen clients like fuss so much about those rules, like rule of thirds, having leading lines, foreground, middle ground, background, all that crap. But then like I'll be looking at the image they're trying to make in the field, and they're like, oh yeah, I have like these nice leading lines coming right here, and I have this in the foreground, and I have these things framing the sides, and I'm like, but what's the subject? Like, what is this photo even about? Because like I really don't see anything that stands out besides like, you know, these things that I don't think you intentionally want to stand out. And so like they think about those things, but then they don't think about the most important things, which are like, you know, what is the photograph actually about? Like what is it that you're actually trying to show by using all of these visual elements of design?
Yeah. So you have a central idea, and then you're that sort of the subject matter dictates a little bit as to how you might approach it. And then you kind of just work through it that way. And I mean, I don't talk to myself, but it's like a natural thing. But when I'm working with students in the field, I can talk about that in design. But I think you need an intent, of course. But for the most part, it's like, you know, I've heard years ago where I cut the trees off in the forest, and this guy said, you can't cut off. You got to every photograph must have a base. And you can't put bright colors on the edge and so on and so on. And I thought, the hell with this shit. I said, when I go in and see paintings and I see all these beautiful things. So that's what I mean by, I learned all the exciting things from painters, and I kind of, you know, not apply it, but I sort of, it's under the influence of, you know, good stuff, right? How do you know good beer if you haven't tasted good beer?
That's right.
That's anything not out of Eric's fridge is usually the answer to that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's good that people talk about this stuff. And, you know, you could take 100 images of Eric's, and you could say 30% of them have the rule of thirds, but it's not conscious, right? So, I mean, by saying they're saying the rule of thirds and all this stuff, you can't have people walking out of the picture, or you can't have things exiting, or it's like saying everyone should wear size 9 shoes. Well, some people should and some people shouldn't, but it's really a matter of intent. But I just feel that it enslaves people, and that's what upsets me, because I feel that they're not free to grow and be, you know, to grow and get new directions in their work. And so I talk a lot, don't I?
I can't think of the last time I intentionally put a subject smack dab on the third for the sake of putting it on the third. Like it just happens
if you do
like
it
accidentally, or not accidentally, but you know, just by happenstance.
If you do it because it belongs there, it's not because
not because it's on the third. It's just that's the spot it needs to be, which happens to be where the third is. Yeah.
But here's the thing: it should be intentional, not forced.
Right.
Agreed.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm all about freedom.
And I've seen too so many times. I mean, I've helped students with this where they get so entranced with like following those rules in the field, and they're like, okay, well, here's my leading line, and you know, here's my subject, and I didn't cut this off, and it almost takes away from that flow state that you were talking about earlier, Richard. And I mean, they just become so focused on that, they lose sight of kind of what they're doing. And I always like to tell people, you know, the most technically perfect photograph can be super boring.
Yeah, it can still be vacant.
Exactly. But then you can have something that's not technically perfect, and it is the most like emotive, inspiring image that, you know, you've seen. So there's definite, I totally get that. And I feel bad when people struggle with that in the field, because they're kind of missing the point. You know, it's like, yes, just, you know, don't stress so much about that. You know, just what are you feeling? What are you seeing? Like go off instinct. And I know like people might bring pitchforks to this comment, but I just, I mean, I feel bad. Like I think the rules are good to learn. I think it's good to like kind of have that fundamental in your brain, but definitely don't let them rule your entire thinking when you're out there. I mean, go in your flow state, go with your heart, go with what you see, what's happening, be reactive.
I mean, this image right here doesn't follow rule of thirds or I don't know, any rule I can think of off the top of my head. You know, the main focal point's like way up in the top corner. Like,
but
some people say that's a no-no.
Isn't that
oh yeah, it gives it a great energy. You know, it spirals out from there, and then it's perfectly done. And so, like, this is where photography becomes really creative and fun once you can branch out from that, and you can start to like so many more possibilities open up to you that don't fit into those like pre-made templates and things that you can now photograph because you're able to, you know, just make it feel right. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's too rigid. It's too rigid. I mean, just
how do you grow being rigid, right?
You don't.
Yeah, you don't.
It's hard. It's hard to win. It's hard to win a
snap
race.
In half.
It's hard to win a race in the Olympics when you're in a straitjacket.
Yep.
Yeah, a tree's not going to survive a storm if it's not flexible.
Right.
Right.
But the more I look at this, the more I like it.
It's killer. That's a really good pick, Richard.
Well,
That
have
is
a
nice.
look at his website and
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm sorry, from his Instagram, I believe this website.
I was actually already following him on Instagram, but it looks like he hasn't posted anything for a couple of years.
Oh, you know what happened? He got hacked and lost everything.
Oh, really?
And he had to start all over again.
Oh, so he has a new account somewhere?
Well, that's the one I sent you in my note the note I sent to you. I sent all the
Okay. Yeah, we'll link to that one for sure.
It's Robert
yeah,
Hecht photography.
and he I think there's a link to his website. So
Well, he doesn't need to worry anymore. After this episode airs, he's going to get like 7 new followers.
Yeah.
We'll take care of him.
It's like
blow this thing up.
it's like Bennett's ghost account.
oh god,
So
yeah, this is amazing.
I would just kind of add to everything that we've been saying. It's just the underlying theme is just get out there and experience and just shoot and just shoot and just shoot. And as time rolls by, you start to hone in on what you're reacting to, what you're responding
And do it
to.
for the joy of it.
yeah.
Don't worry
here's
about it.
So here's an image from Andrew Mielzynski, and I know that Jennifer had shared one of a forest, but anyway, I wanted to show this one, and this was I had a look at some of his work, and I chose this one, not the obvious one to choose, but I love this image. This was in I think it was the North Shore of Lake Erie, and these are oxides in the sand, and these are waves crashing, and then this moment in time of the waves reacting with the surf going back on the sand, which is little bits of blue and brown. I just love the ambiguity of this and the design and so on.
Mm-hmm. I'll put a plug in. I love Andrew's work. If you haven't followed him, definitely give him a follow.
Yeah,
He does a really nice job.
I and a few other friends have been encouraging him to post his work and share it on. He doesn't have a website, but he has on Instagram, and he's done probably, I lost count, but maybe more than 20 workshops with me over the years.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Maybe even more. I think it was even more than that. But and I also do some personal photography with him as well. During COVID, we were photographing together in a provincial park, and since we couldn't go anywhere. And so we do that as well as officially a participant on my trip. So yeah, he was, and if you remember last year, he was 2023, he tied for the International Landscape Photographer of the Year with that burned out forest on Waterton Lakes, the one with the hillside with the lights on the trees, highlights.
I'll have to go check that out again.
And he was tied for Photographer of the Year. And then they had to they took the judge that didn't pick either one of the people and to do the final one. So he dropped to second, but that was pretty cool. And also the same year on Natural Landscape Awards with Matt Payne, Tim Parkins, who was the editor on Landscape, his image on that image was one of the top 5 in his picks. So he made that in the book as well.
Nice. I still haven't gotten that book.
Then he's got Lensworks as well. He's got three books and Lensworks, Seeing in Sixes project, 2018.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got Our Magnificent Planet 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
And he was also in Light, Glorious Light in 2023. And I think, Jennifer, you had a project in that as well, right? Or which one was that?
I've had 3 Seeing in Sixes, and then I think one of Our Magnificent Landscape, and then I didn't submit anything else the other years because I'm.
And then the monograph.
Actually. Oh yeah, the monograph.
Which is
Yeah.
outstanding.
By the way, I would highly
you.
recommend buying that one.
With you and David. That's just so amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Copies are still available.
There.
Have you ever submitted?
Thank you, Jimmy. Yes.
There we go. Shameless
Have
plug.
you ever?
I love it.
And I'm mailing
Have you
her
ever-
beer. What the hell?
Yeah, it's backwards. Hey, Richard, have you ever submitted any images to competitions?
I've never. I don't know why.
I figured, but
I know why do you figure? Yeah, I never got around to it. No,
You'd clean up, dude. You do that.
no, I haven't. Should I?
Yeah,
his
you're
ego is too fragile. It would
Dude,
shatter
I'm
his
very fragile.
confidence. He'd quit.
you
Yeah.
clean it up. Are you kidding me? With the news, I mean, come on, bro.
Actually, I was on a flight. To Japan with Andrew, or I call him Andy, and he was on his laptop going through all these award books and the PDF from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at all this stuff and said, "Oh man, I would never enter this stuff. I could never make it in here." And then he started. I guess he started showing me. I had like 2 elements or 3 elements features and 2 on landscape interviews, and he was flipping through that, and I didn't even realize. I thought this stuff is pretty good. It's not mine. Jesus.
You're like, who's this bastard? He's just.
I thought, I don't know. I'm not that bad, but I'm really hard on myself. So I don't take myself seriously, and I don't know.
You need.
So the short answer is no, I haven't.
Dude, your work is phenomenal. I mean, it's that's why you got some really, really great stuff. It was super hard for all of us to even look through your stuff and choose.
Did you have to pick stuff of mine?
Dude, I sent like 5 images to Bennett. I was like, I don't even know, man. This is all this shit is fucking great.
Yeah,
How can
I
you
have
choose
so
on my
many
shitty
favorites.
website?
You're on slides.
Again,
like,
with Polaroids.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's great, man.
But I love this image. I love, the ambiguity, and it's a pure, it's interesting for me when I look through my viewfinder and make an image and it looks surreal, but it's real. It's photography, it's recording optics, but at the same time, it's surreal. And that's what, I guess, going back to that question by Eric earlier, what keeps me going? And that keeps me going when I discover some new things through the viewfinder that just keeps me excited. And I'm very excited about art and stuff like that. So that's cool. But this is a wonderful image. I love that little bit of blue in there in the foreground part.
Yeah. That sand looks super crazy. For me, the most
he was he was explaining to me about the way the water was kicking back as it landed, and it's like one of those moments, right?
Yeah. The most captivating part about this for me is like the water at the top, how it resembles like the bottom of a dress or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going to say too, there's mimicry with the blue sand patterns and even some of the brown ones with the texture of the water.
Yeah.
Like there's a symmetry there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I love
that's really
this
nice.
location.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Without that, it would fall apart. I feel it would be very different without that symmetry.
Yeah.
He has a series of these, and it's always so difficult to choose images, especially if you just have one to choose. And so I kind of went with one that wasn't as obvious. I mean, there's certain obvious images that are super duper, and but I like that little bit behind this, sort of on the edge, right? So that's why I chose this one. Yeah, and I think it's all about discovering new things, new ways of seeing things, and just evoking some reaction too, right? That's what it's all about, is the reactive part of it. And we're all spectators and bring our life experiences to the viewing of this. The photographer makes the meaning in their images personally, but as spectators or viewers, we bring meaning to the work as well. So just because someone doesn't like your work, it doesn't mean it's not great if you really like it within reason. And that's why you shouldn't get upset if, let's put it this way, if that jury thing was done, the same images 2 different years or 2 different times with different jury members or judges, you're going to get different results, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a perfect science, and it's
depends
wonderful.
who else enters too, who else you're
I know.
up against.
It's all about, it's that pinball machine of images bouncing around.
But I mean, do any of us ever really consider whether or not our work is great or not? Like, I don't think that really matters to us. It's more just like, is it fulfilling? Do you find joy in it and meaning? And I think that's enough. Like,
I think joy and meaning is the most important part.
beer delivery.
Beer delivery, isn't that nice?
Oh,
Yeah, you put on some shorts.
Wow.
dang.
I didn't want to just get up and walk away. So I'm like, can you bring me my second beer?
We appreciate it.
That's fear of missing out.
Jennifer just went full Hans on us.
Right. The very Hans move.
That was so Han. I need a beer.
Like, I'm empty over here.
Hit me. I thought Eric had one strapped to the cat when he was chasing it, but maybe not.
That's a good way to shake them up.
I would just say I'd recommend checking out Andrew's Instagram account, because the winter images in there are just like another level or two beyond. Like it's just winter is tough, and it's just super artistic. It's really really nice.
Yeah, his stuff's way better than yours.
Yeah, by far, like 5 levels.
He's got some
mean.
I didn't even deny it. Like
this one's making my face red.
Okay,
Even more than normal.
That's funny.
Jennifer, tell us about it.
Oh, the beer?
Yeah.
Yes. So again, this is courtesy.
You can't have one delivered and not talk about it.
I know. Well, I didn't
true.
want to interrupt. I felt bad. I haven't gotten that confidence down yet. Baked and stuffed berry Danish, but courtesy of Paul. Great notion. 6%. It's a tart ale with raspberry, banana, and natural and artificial flavors. But if you dig deep into the flavors, I believe it's like pretzels and graham crackers and all sorts of good stuff. So, and the can art is cool. It's like a bear that's baked out of its mind. It's kind of fun. Great Notion has great can art, I will say.
They do. Yep.
So yes.
That's a good one. Cheers.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I've had that one before. That's a annual release with Claim 52.
So yummy.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So
yeah, Claim 52 is another good brewery for smoothies, Jennifer, if you've never tried their stuff. Paul can get their stuff at the bottle shop. They're in Eugene, Oregon.
Yep.
Okay.
Next package, let me know.
Okay, definitely.
Eric, what was the one was it out of Pennsylvania for smoothies?
Like 450 North, maybe, or Imprint beer.
Imprint, yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty crazy. You need like a spoon for those. Sometimes I can't even pour them out of the can.
Oh my goodness.
Like bloop,
Yeah,
bloop.
I've had some pretty good ones.
Yeah, it didn't hit me, but I thought it was pretty amazing. What they created. So I definitely respect there.
It's like ice cream.
Paul, where do you live? I forget where you're located.
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, really? Cool. Portland, amazing. I love Portland.
Yep.
Very cool. So I chose this image of Freeman Patterson's, and I don't know if he needs any introduction, but for me,
Well, I actually had never heard of him until you told me about him a couple of years ago when we started working together.
Okay.
And then I read all of his books.
I don't know if this does it justice, but I've seen this in print, and this is from Namibia, and it's a quiver tree, and it's an ancient tree. But what's happened with the sunlight only for about like 20 minutes in the day, the setting sun hits that mountain behind.
Okay.
So it's a mix
of a front lit scene.
Backdrop. And
this one's crazy.
So wonderful, and it's so different. I mean, I love trees, and rocks are my main interest in nature, but obviously it's more than that. But yeah, so I just really, really love this image, and it really speaks to me. And I thought that just to introduce him, he's internationally acclaimed. And when I was working with the architects, and I was doing some photography utilitarian for the architects and projects, and he did, before his first book came out, he did a seminar tour at Queen's University. Well, there's a cat. You finally nabbed him.
Oh, she's so cute.
That's good.
She's the best.
That face.
Yeah.
She looks like the Grinch.
She does. I love it though.
It's always like grumpy.
They do a whole series of cat faces. So I first, when I was working in architecture, and on my lunch breaks, I would always be in these amazing bookstores and looking at art books. And but I discovered the same year I discovered the Creation Burns Haas, which was in the late 1977, something like that. And then at the same year, Freeman Patterson came to the university and did a lecture, and I just was blown away. So those two people were like, this is before I get to see a lot of images. These two people, photographers, had me hooked on getting back, get using the camera as being a child again and being creative with it. And so my foundation, he was like a Hemingway to me in terms of in photography. And I mean, if all his list is very, very long. He's got the Order of Canada, which is a very high honor, and he's done work internationally. He spends maybe half a year in Namibia and Africa and does workshops there, and he does them in Israel and so on. And it's all natural landscape stuff, nature. And he's very inspiring. And yeah, so all I can say is all his books, I mean, all his teaching books are so wondерful. Photography.
Yeah, I have all of those.
Photography and
Photographing the world around you.
All those are really wonderful teaching books. And, I kind of the best philosophy of ever, you could get. And so that helped me so much in my foundation of photography. And those were the starting points. And it was interesting back in the day, like I was not very out there with my photography, and it wasn't like social media back then. So after 10 years of making images, I got the nerve up to submit my work to a magazine, which he used to be an editor of, Camera Canada magazine. And I think, Eric, you saw that in the PDF I sent you. And I think it was 1990 or something like that. But so he had seen that work, but he didn't really know me or know much about me. But we are starting to do conferences, Camera Canada colleges, and they're on different cities in Canada. So the first time I was a keynote speaker, when the 400 people come and watch that, and otherwise they watch classrooms and split it up about 4 different topics. But everybody was attending what I was doing, and he was in the audience. And he'd only seen that magazine article, but he was sitting in the front row. And these were filmed. I had Leica projectors. These were film days, right? So I had like double screen and big screens and stuff like that. So I ran through my talk and my audio visuals with images and music. And he jumped out of the chair and started a standing ovation. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
And he said all these things about my work. And you got to remember that people are like, he's like God to all these photographers, right? And here he is jumping out of his chair and saying all these amazing things about my work in front of that entire audience, which was really cool. And then he asked me if I would stay and show it again for him and his friends, some of my work, and discuss it. So that was pretty cool. So from that point on, I kind of like was sort of, recognized by him. And then I sort of became friends over the years. And he and subsequently was teaching keynote speaking engagements with him in the conferences and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. It goes from like this idol to being part of his conferences and stuff. So it's pretty good.
That's a cool.
That's awesome.
Cool.
But
that's like,
I'll tell you something to like switch the perspective. Like once I started talking to you and working together with you, like that's exactly how I felt with you.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Like I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Well, was there something in my work that spoke to you, or?
Oh, everything. Whenever people ask me about you, I just tell them, like, the way I describe you is you're the most artistic, creative person I know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's quite a compliment. Thanks.
That's so accurate, though. I mean, it's yeah.
Every time you share an image, like, it blows me away, and it's very unpredictable. I never know what you're going to show next. Like, it always surprises me somehow. And I'm just like, how does he continue to innovate and just continually come up with such amazing stuff? And like a lot of it is so simple too, that it just always like inspires me, because like, wow, there's so much more I can do with even less, like, I don't know. It's pretty remarkable.
It's interesting to hear, because you don't know about your own work, but I'm somewhat insecure maybe about it, but I don't know, because I'm too close to it. I don't see things that other people see. But I got to tell you though, that I think that whatever success I've had in photography comes from not caring about if I'm accepted. Does that sound weird?
That's great.
That's the key, because you don't want to fit in. Then you're not gonna stand out.
Right.
I don't want it to sound arrogant, because it's not arrogant. But if I was trying to please people, then I would never produce what you just said that you saw that I produce. Never.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
you'd be like McDonald's of photography.
I I was doing his presentation some years ago in Toronto, and it was like a full house with standing room, and I was just wanted people to feel that they could do this stuff. And I didn't have the most expensive camera equipment in the world. I was just trying to say that, you know what, it's just the vision and all this stuff. And this guy come up to me, and it never dawned on me, but he come up to me afterwards and said, "I love the fact that you don't give a shit."
Yes.
I thought,
I love that.
that's an
That is a
interesting
great
comment.
compliment.
Yeah.
Because you know what, there was two people on that at that presentation in Toronto that came to one of my workshops a week later, and they told me that there was 3 or 4 guys in the back that were judging my work and trashing my camera equipment and all that stuff. And he said they couldn't photograph worth anything, but yet they were just swimming in their equipment and stuff. I thought that was an interesting take on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are stories that it sticks with me because I didn't really realize that. I didn't realize that I was that way, but I wasn't trying to be arrogant about that. But
Sure.
yeah, so it's interesting. And there's lots of other stories tied to that. It was I was in a conference. We were all keynotes, Stephen Patterson and myself and Freeman and Henri. There was a 4-day conference, and each day one of us was a keynote speaker. And we all sat together and watched each other's presentations. And one time, Stephen Patterson and I were sitting at the back of the auditorium during another lecture, and Freeman was walking up the aisle with the head of the Royal Photographic Society of England, and he was walking towards us, and he goes, "I want to introduce you to 2 of Canada's finest photographers." And Stephen and I both looked behind us. What are you talking about?
Yes.
Completely caught off guard.
You have to know us to understand how funny that is, because we don't think of ourselves like that, or whatever that is. I don't know what that means. But anyway, I thought that was funny because Stephen Patterson and I are kind of similar in the sense that we're kind of nonchalant about the stuff, and i.e. not having proper website galleries and not having books and so on and so on. But that's going to come.
Well, coming from Freeman Patterson, though, that is pretty validating because he has good taste. So
yeah, well, you've got a lot of experience in the industry, and I don't know. It's hard, it's hard to put into words someone's work. It either speaks to you or not. Now, Portraits of Earth is one of the images, or one of the books that
I went and got that one because I had it in my shelf, and I actually just realized this is a used copy I got for like $15. It's signed by Freeman Patterson on the inside, and he didn't put a name, so. As far as I know, he signed it for me in the past, like for the future. He knew I'd get it at some point. Good wishes,
awesome,
Freeman Patterson. I don't think this image is in this book, though. There's a lot of Namibia stuff, but I didn't see it in there. But I'm familiar with this one because Elements used it for a cover of one of their issues. Yeah, and I saw it somewhere else too.
Do you have this one, Shadow Light?
I don't have that one.
Can you see that?
Yeah. It's that Namibia schoolhouse with the sand on the cover.
Well, it's an abandoned mining town. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's called Shadowlight, A Photographer's Life. It's really good essays. Like, he's an amazing writer. Oh my God.
Oh, that's what I was going to say about this book. Like, I love the writing in this. It's like, he gets really technical and like the science behind photography, like how it works and everything. And like, also just science in general and biology and stuff. And it's really fascinating. The way he describes like light interacting with the landscape and stuff too, like comparing it to like an orchestra and like these different like phases in the symphony and stuff. Like, it's really cool.
Boy, his slideshows back in the day in the auditorium with the music, it would just make your hair and your arms stand up. It was so amazing with the music and the imagery. And yeah, so that's the kind of thing that, I mean, I guess I come to all this probably from my work. I come to it from the side of the art side, in the sense of that's sort of the thing that I'm focused on. And that's what inspired me about his work and so on. And basically, that was the core of my foundation of motivation and stuff. And it was like everything to me to be inspired by that. But he did tell me some years later that he appreciated that I was inspired by him, but I definitely found my own style, which was nice to hear. Yeah. And I was at his house one time. One time we were doing a conference together. I was driving back to where I live, and he said, "I'm just heading off to do a workshop, but if you want to use my house and stay at my house, drew on a map some of his favorite places to photograph on the country roads around his area. And
Yeah, which he features a lot in his books.
Yeah, exactly. His backyard is amazing. And so that was pretty cool. And then another time coming back from a conference, I stopped in to visit him, and I had a copy of Ernst Haas' To Dream with Open Eyes. It's a video. And I asked him if he's seen it, and he said he hadn't. So we watched it together. So like, you know, people line up at seminars to say hi to him, and get to spend the whole afternoon just discussing that video about Ernst Haas and all that stuff. And I thought, you can't plan this stuff. It's just serendipity, right? I didn't plan on doing that. It just happens. And I think those are all the things that sort of keep you going, and I suppose. But yeah, I don't think this does it justice, this image or this, but I would love to have a print of this.
How old do you think this? What year do you think this is from? 80s, 90s?
Probably 90s, but he's been going there for a long time.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because some of these in this book are from like the 70s, I think.
Yeah. I think there's some great YouTube video, the interview. I just found a new one that was recent. I should send it to you. And there's a lot of lectures that have been recorded on YouTube. I didn't realize there's so much out there.
Well, I still want to see that documentary they did on him that just came out like last year.
Yeah,
I've got all that stuff. If you want, just ask me and I'll send it to you.
Oh, yeah, wow. Please do.
Yeah, and maybe it was a documentary last year, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it ever became available, at least not for free or on any streaming channels in the US.
Right.
I was watching for it.
Well, just remind me. But should I send it to just Eric, and Eric can share it to you, but to everybody else, or should I? Yeah, I felt like I was bothering everybody by sending material to everybody, but
no, send it. That's awesome.
That's so annoying, Richard. Stop spamming me with your stupid garbage.
Can we wrap this up? I mean,
send it to us. That'd be fantastic. Love to see it.
I'm the kind of person that I get so excited when I see something I want to share with everybody.
No,
I love it.
Put us on the position. Yeah, it's awesome.
Your excitement is contagious.
We're all the same way.
I'm just like, I bounce off the walls. I'm so excited most of the time. So
love it.
That's awesome.
I guess there's pills for that, right? But I don't want them.
Eric's always sending us the latest like sales at Costco on Bud Light. Killing us.
The mule train.
Yeah, this image is awesome though. What really impresses me about this one, or just like what makes me think the most, is like I tend to not like color casts at all, especially warm color casts. Like in my own images, I'm always avoiding them, always eliminating them, because I love color separation, you know, and I think you do too, Richard, like warm and cool color contrast. It's like, I can't get enough of it. But this one, you know, it has this really rich red color cast, but it's perfect. Like I wouldn't want to see it another way. Like this is an instance where it works to have everything, you know, monochromatic, everything with a tinge of red in it. And it just feels like the whole world is on fire, even though this is like such an intimate scene. It feels like it just expands out of the frame. And there's another thing too, like about a lot of people don't realize when you shoot more intimate scenes, what it allows the imagination to do is guess what is outside of the frame, how long the scene continues on for, which can actually make the subject appear even more grandiose and impressive and massive than it is in reality. And this is a great, you know, there's a great example of that. Yeah, exactly. It just feels like the whole world is just like, you know, like Armageddon, apocalypse. It's so awesome. Even though it's just this one tree, it just feels like all encompassing and so powerful.
And those punctuations of color, and especially in the top corners, are very important, I think, to give it continuity. And when you cut things off on the edges, this is one of the things this is a big leap I made in my idea of composing, is the realization that when you cut something off through the viewfinder, you're redirecting the attention somewhere else in the picture space, and you have control over that as a photographer to redirect the attention, you know, and so that by cutting off the top and the edges, you're centralizing the viewer to look at what probably was the central idea or the intent of this image, of this subject.
But the way those top left and top right corners are open, like you can see the glowing mountain behind them, it's not tree like the top edges, like it's not closed off. That gives you the sense that it expands, you know, that it keeps going instead of like closing it in and ending the scene. There's like no terminus.
I think in compositions, we have all this perception. We have visual perception based on psychology of all this over life stuff, right? But I think it's interesting how that whole thing plays out, and the framal reference, and it's basically, I call that the arena. The frame is the arena that things play out inside. And you have relationships and within, subjects and objects in the picture. And you're basically, it's like writing. You're organizing. The linguistic design is very similar. I mean, he speaks about that too in some of his talks about, we organize nouns into sentences and sentences into paragraphs. And the very first time I started writing for the magazine, my neighbor was a journalist. And I said, I was asked to write an article, but I don't think I can do it. She says, yes, you can. Just write it down the way you would teach. And she sat down and read it back to me. And what questions she asked me was, I think this paragraph should be down here, and this sentence is too long. What are you trying to say? And it's exactly, I said, wait a minute, that's exactly how I speak to participants on workshops about their images. What are you trying to say with the image? Does this take away from the subject, or does it compete with it?
Can you condense it? Is there anything that doesn't need to be there?
Yeah, I call it visual hecklers, the little things that yell out for attention that don't add to the picture. Like if it doesn't add to the picture, then why is it there, so to speak?
Right.
But anyway, it's all fun to look at that. And I think it's important for photographers when you get your work back, not to discard them quickly. Like in the old days of film, like when I would throw away my slides on the light table, I would put them in a little box in a drawer. And then a week later, I'd look at them again and maybe throw 80% of them out, but keep 2 or 3 because I was in a different mood that day. And I think today on digital, people are deleting like crazy and they're not spending enough time to absorb it. I think that I see that kind of thing happening, but I think it's important to spend some time with it. But obviously, there's ones you want to throw away, the pictures of your feet and stuff like that when your camera's fired off.
Got big feet.
Anyway.
Yeah. The central highlight there, the flame, it's kind of like lit everything. Is just it's a pretty that element really adds a lot to it as well.
Yeah, little extra tree in the bottom left corner is kind of cool because it kind of throws it into asymmetrical a little bit, right? These are things you can't move. Obviously, it's not like a Coke can in the environment. It's like you just work what you have. But I like that. I love creating symmetry and maybe having a device to knock it out, right?
Yeah.
I wonder what Alex Noriega would think of this tree. I think he's into trees, right?
I like trees. Why don't you ask what I think about it?
Yeah.
Alex?
I think one of the things that stands out to me for this image, photography is a 2D, two-dimension medium.
Yeah.
But this image with the tonal contrasts, there's just enough that it's very tactile. Like I feel like I can reach out, grab these tree branches and actually feel them and experience them. And I think that's, this is a great example that even with smaller scenes, you can make that viewer feel that. And I think a lot of people say, well, grand scenes, you want to make the viewer feel like they were standing right next to you. And, that's how you portray those. And you got to make it feel for the viewer. And smaller scenes don't do that. But this is a great example. Yes, they do. With the right light, the right composition. I mean, I feel like I'm standing there next to this tree. And the other thing I like about this is that, how many images from Namibia do we see nowadays? It's usually the sand dunes, those really gnarly trees. I mean, this is a great example of something completely different from a very familiar area. And I am so drawn to those because I just think they're unique. And that's the artist's perception of that area. So yeah, just a few of the things that stand out to me with this. But yeah, it's so cool.
Hear me out though. If he had done like a 32 frame focus stack to get the background tack sharp and he had moved the tree over to the left third, this would be like 1,000 times better.
Now that's sarcasm. I get it. I'm learning. I'm just learning sarcasm now.
Yes.
Nice job, Richard. Woohoo.
Yeah.
In progress. You might survive.
Jennifer, what you were describing reminded me when I was a kid, and you guys are way too young, but we had these little magnetjectors, I think they're called. But you put these little discs in and you look through them and there's 2-dimensional. Everything looks 3-dimensional.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember.
I had those when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
What was it called? I don't know, but.
Was it a Viewmaster?
Oh, Viewmaster. That's it.
Jennifer.
Everything looked 3-dimensional.
I'm too young to remember the name, but I remember
I know.
those things.
Whatever. You're such a young pup. Like, you don't count for this. Yeah.
Eric would have to find it in one of those One of those stores has retro
Thrift
stuff.
store.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's got SpongeBob on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
SpongeBob.
This image is fucking crazy.
Oh yeah. This is
Man,
awesome.
This guy.
Oh
Unreal.
my goodness.
This is like Eric Bennett porn right here.
Ooh, okay. This is the shit right here.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Leaves,
take it in.
foam, amazing contrast, beautiful color. So
Yeah,
is Stephen Patterson related to Freeman Patterson anyway? That's a stupid
No.
question, but okay.
No, it's not stupid. He gets asked that a lot. No.
Well, I thought viewers might wonder too. So
Oh, of course. Yeah. So he used to use Stephen Scott Patterson just to separate that, but not that would matter.
because I had never heard of Stephen Patterson until you submitted these images.
It's so sad that he is unbelievable. I mean,
He was an instant follow. I'm following him now.
But he's he just blows me away with everything he does, and he's extremely talented. So I guess as an introduction, I mean, I chose this. I was so hard to choose this image or choose one image that represented his work, because if you love this image and if you saw his work that's not out there to be shown, there's probably 800 to 900 images that are every bit equal to this one, and it just keeps coming and coming. So it's a shame that he's not out there he's not out there in the world. But the thing is, let me just start off by saying that just imagine he attended an Ernst Haas workshop in September 1985. And that was Ernst Haas's very last workshop. But it was the next year, was his last workshop, and he passed on in 80.
Wow.
I think it was in 85. Yeah. And
So what do you know about this photo? Was it shot on film? How long ago?
It was shot on, I believe it was shot on film. And I have to ask him about that.
Really?
Because he's the same
The
as
depth
me.
is incredible.
Yeah.
And these are all real leaves. These are like a lot of oak leaves falling down. So he didn't
Yeah.
like clone them in there. And you see lots of water patterns. And I think that, I don't know if Jim, I sent you another swirling thing on Messenger today because I found it. And I keep finding more and more work of it, but I know him quite well. So we first met in 1989 and we've been friends ever since. So that's like 35 years ago. And his images, he has 19 images. Let me see. He has 19 images. I'll get back to this picture in a moment. He has 19 photographs in this. Can you see this book, The Last Wilderness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sent a link to Jennifer, I think, on that. But it's a 13
Yeah.
by 13 hardcover. But he had 19 images published, and that was way back in 1990. And he did presentations for the Sierra Club in New York City. And he did the North American Nature Photography NAMPHA seminar as well back in 97. And Art Wolf was there, and Art Wolf was blown away with his work. And asked him to show more stuff of his abstracts. And so he's got to do a book like myself. I mean, it could kick ass with a book, and I encouraged him to submit work to, did you see his Elements magazine article?
How long ago?
Yeah, it was the same one that Sarah Marino was in.
I'll have to check it out.
Last year. Yeah.
I'll have to look.
Yeah, it was okay. And so when he was doing we were just Zooming together and he was just showing me work, and he was showing me so much work that just blew me away. And I've known his stuff from all the time. We taught together many, many years. We've done workshops together, and we've done all these conferences from Vancouver all the way across to Halifax. And I've just never seen the vision like this ever. And I think, sadly, a lot of people don't appreciate the sophisticated eye he has so much. I mean, of course they do, but I think that it goes on lost. It gets lost on some people because it's not sort of, the regular kind of thing. But this is amazing image. I think it reads well on the screen here for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So I guess.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm supposed to. Yeah. So maybe I'll let you guys discuss it, but.
It just has so much depth, and it's the colors.
Yeah.
That when I first met him in '89, it was a conference. It's called Camera Canada College. It's put on it's just like all the other conferences where you have keynote speakers in classrooms just to choose from, and it's over a 4-day weekend thing. And so first time I saw his work, he was doing a slow dissolve, and just after he came back from his workshop with Ernst Haas, and he was doing this slow dissolve, and it was, oh my God, it just blew me away. And so many people didn't understand because it was a way too artsy for some people, but it was so amazing. And so I'm unfortunate we've become friends since then, and I've chat a lot, and he's very much like me. We're kind of scattered, and that's a good, that's a good thing, because if we didn't have those personalities, we wouldn't create the work we create.
Right.
So, you can't have it all, but I wouldn't trade the inefficient time management for or whatever. We all are what we are, but it's our fingerprint, right? But man, he just keeps going. He just keeps producing and producing work, and I think we're both like 6-year-olds and with a camera.
Super cool.
Yeah. Oh, another story. Can I quickly tell you very quickly, because this is something that also in his camera club that he went to, he got such low scores because they couldn't possibly understand the sophisticated jazz images, right? So him and his friend would compete for the lowest score each year. Because the lowest score would be the very best picture. So this picture, the lowest score would be the best. So they made a little trophy or something like that. And I like that sort of joking around thing, but I don't mean to knock camera clubs, because they're amazing social things. But I have a problem with conformity, and I always have. So therefore,
no question.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to sound arrogant, but I just don't like conforming to ridiculous stuff.
No. The highest compliment that I ever received was someone looked at my work and said, "You would not do well in a camera club." And I said, "Awesome."
Well, good. That must mean you're amazing.
And I was like, "That's great," because I don't want to conform.
I'm freestyling. I love it. Great.
Yeah, so I sound terrible about camera clubs, but anyway, the reason I'm saying that is you've heard it many times, but I talk a lot. But yeah, so, and also there's I want to, wouldn't it be nice if he had if him and I both had proper galleries?
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean, right?
Maybe in a few years.
It'd be like mind blowing. Or put out like a nice book. It would be like, you'd have a line. Come on. Let's go.
Yeah, so.
Come on, baby.
It's all inspiring, man. So I also, just one more point. He was doing multiple exposures 38 years ago in 1986. And Freeman Patterson had a print on it in his house for many years. It was 50 exposures. His camera's on a tripod, a beautiful apple tree, blossoms, the gnarly shaped apple tree with the white blossoms. So it was extremely windy, and his camera's on a tripod. He made 50 exposures without moving anything, just the movement of the leaves. And it looks so impressionistic. And so that was 38 years ago, and everybody's doing multiple exposures now, and that was Kodachrome 25 film. So, and he read an article in Peterson's photographic magazine about doing multiple exposures. So he just tried it on a tree. And then since then, he's, been binging on them and stuff like that. So he has all kinds of interpretive things. We also do deep dives together in junkyards and photograph landscapes of the mind and the rusted forms of sculptural forms.
That's so
cool. That's super.
So I guess I've said enough, but he's a visual genius, and he's a 1%er in Canada in terms of photography.
That's great.
That's cool. I'm glad you.
I oversold that, but if you see his work, you'll know what I mean.
Oh yeah, no, I followed him for a while. Yeah. He's amazing.
If you go on his Facebook, if you can find his Facebook, and I think I sent a link to somebody here.
Yeah.
There's a current Flickr account that has a bunch of his images, so you can see them a bit better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that's enough of that. But wow, can't say enough.
You can go take a pee break if you need to, Richard, and we can get our hands on this one.
What if I don't need to?
That's fine. I was just offering, trying to be generous, trying to think about the guests.
He's a camel. He can handle it.
I'm a camel.
The best
Okay.
is when Mike's here and it's like right next door and you get the sound
Yeah.
effect.
And he doesn't
Oh,
mute it
God.
back on.
Real nice.
I mean, it was like, I think that was like episode 1. You're just going, dude, we're not cutting that out.
No, absolutely not.
Making the older guys on here feel like humbled.
I feel like I apologize because I talk a lot and I get really excited. So I apologize for that. And
Oh, we love it,
No, we
Richard.
love it.
I'm going to be quiet and going to let you guys talk. Sorry.
No way, dude. No, it's
We'd
your
rather
show.
have you talk than
Yeah.
Jimmy.
We don't want to listen to
Poor Jimmy.
So you go ahead.
I think you picked out like the perfect image to represent Steven here. I mean, it's just, yeah,
it's crazy.
It's so good, and to note that it's we're talking on film here,
Yeah.
years back.
dude.
And it's just oak leaves and foam, which are not very remarkable subjects, but this is such a remarkable image the way it's put together.
Yeah, to fill the
Pretty
frame,
ordinary
so,
objects. Yeah.
to fill the frame so beautifully. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think it's always fascinating to see when people have, something like this on film, like 30, 40, whatever years ago, that the
Yes.
same things appeal to them as they appeal to us. I mean, I know a lot of us have these very similar foam and leaf images, but we're not the first. Like if you go back, there are like mud cracks on film and all these amazing things, even
I thought I was
oils
the
I've
first,
seen.
but
Sorry, Eric.
There's so much of that. Like
yeah.
that you look at and you're like, wait a minute, this was shot back in the 70s? Or
Yeah.
60s?
But it just comes down to the same visual elements, like a repeated pattern of lines with very stark, white and black contrast. That's like
Right.
irresistible. And then these polka dots of all these nice orange contrasting colors on top of that. Like,
Yeah.
anybody can appreciate that from any generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
timeless.
It's so sustainable and classic and classy. I mean, it just and it repeats itself, and that's totally fine. But it's amazing. It just doesn't get old.
I feel
These are
that way
amazing.
with Bill Neal's work a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of
It's
course.
just like,
For sure.
like, oh,
Totally.
that was 78. That's
Yeah.
great.
No,
Yeah.
you're spot on. I mean, you're totally spot on there.
Yeah, just
I wonder how frustrating it was to photograph this with film, like if it was moving a lot or.
Dude,
That's what I was
can you
wondering.
imagine?
No.
Imagine the work.
Or maybe he just got lucky and it was dead still. But usually this stuff is swirling around and
Oh yeah, it's so frustrating.
Oh my gosh. We are
I'd
so
have to ask him about that. Yeah.
spoiled.
Oh yeah.
Eric, he has an image on Flickr that reminds me a little bit of an image you did with like seaweed, like the super green filamentous seaweed. Recently.
well,
I'm not
mine would
trying to-
remind you of his because he came before me.
No, I know. It's just not trying to bust your chops, but
It
it's,
doesn't matter.
he's got ice in there and stuff. It's just it reminded me of something that in a good way that you've done.
But the cool thing is that you've never seen this before. So, I mean, if you've never seen anybody's work before, people are going to have similar things, right?
Yeah. Like
And
when
Jimmy,
I,
the one I sent you today with that was mind blowing, wasn't it? The swirls.
on Messenger.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it certainly was.
and he's an amazing printer. He's a great printer. He prints like his stuff on print is so good. It's just blow away on print. Wow.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
pass
when
that on to
I-
you guys too. But yeah,
when I first found Elliot Porter's work and started buying his books, I was like, wow, he's shooting all these like puddles and mud and canyons with reflecting walls in them, like just like I do. And I was like, and I was just cool to like see a resemblance, but it wasn't something I'd consciously done to copy him or anything,
Right.
No.
Yep. No, that's super cool.
Yeah, the blacks. Look how important the blacks are in here in terms of it's always that contrast thing that when you have it, it really punctuates, right?
Well, and it's nice how the foam is like slightly gray. It's not completely white. So the leaves like pop the most. They're not competing at all with the white foam.
A hierarchy
Yeah.
of different parts, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
distribution
really nice.
of the leaves is just perfect. I mean, everywhere
Yeah,
you
it's
look.
insane.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, when you
Not
squint
fair.
at this, it's actually really cool. That's how back in the day I
Mm.
used to throw my lens out of focus to see the distribution of tonality. And if you squint at this or use your beer eyes, you can same thing.
I'm seeing double right now.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
It's like
Pick up the pace, people.
so yeah, you get to see that sort of distribution of contrast and tonality or hue, and yeah. Wow.
Yeah, really nice. So
Yeah,
before we
this
move
is
on to the next image, I'll introduce this new beer that I poured.
Okay.
I decided to drink a
Oh.
smoothie for my girl Jennifer tonight.
Aw.
This one is another one that Jimmy Tran sent me. This one is from Humble Sea in collaboration with Alvarado Street for their 7th anniversary.
Ooh. Nice.
And this smoothie ale is gushing with blueberry, banana, lemon, and vanilla, and it's 8%.
Dude, that sounds
Ooh,
like
that sounds really good. Oh my god.
is good.
Blueberry lemon, that's a great combo in anything.
You can taste the lemon. Yeah, it adds a nice tart. It's not sour, but it adds that nice little tartness to balance off the berries, the sweet berries.
You smoking a cigarette with that, dude?
Bananas, yeah, I'll light one up in a second. I smoke in the house.
You savage.
Gotta turn off the smoke. Forgot to turn off the smoke alarm.
Okay, so I cracked one as well. I went local. Another one, Ruse Brewing. This one's called Brain Glow, which I'm starting to feel. And this one's 7.7, and it's what do we got going? Galaxy, Citra, Mosaic. It's got all the good stuff in it, so it's a good one.
Jimmy.
Nice.
Come on. I love
Come
it.
on.
I like
So
the
I
peanut
poured one
gallery.
Poured one as well. So
Oh,
Shit,
speaking of
dude,
maple.
Oh,
that's a banger.
Ocean.
Yeah, I save those for the campfires.
Yeah,
Dude, I got
this is-
so many of those still.
Me
Richard
too. That's my
Brennan.
favorite camping beer.
It's so good.
Breakfast of Leisure by Great Notion. And it's 11 and a half, so I'm going to
Oof.
be regretful tomorrow morning. But
11 and a half.
Oh yeah.
it's
gosh.
it's Canadian maple. And
Ooh.
that's
That's
really
right,
nice.
Richard. You heard it. Canadian maple.
Wow. I should have
Pour
been all
super
Canadian,
thick,
wear
too.
a plaid shirt and all that
And
stereotype.
does that one have cinnamon and vanilla as well, or it's got something else?
It does, yeah.
Dude, that
Sounds amazing.
one's so
Cinnamon.
good. I drink one of those a week.
Super smooth.
Yeah, it's when you said Bennett, you're like, dude, why aren't you getting a case of that? I got a fucking case of that,
Yeah, good.
and I think I got out to all of you with some backstock. So let me know.
Yeah, that's super nice. It's the first one I've had. It's really
Oh, nice.
the double
Sounds really
stack.
good.
That's the
Double
first
stack.
one, dude.
You want it
First one,
really
yeah.
warm too. The warmer, the better. It
Yeah.
really gets good.
It's been sitting here the whole time. Yeah.
Nice.
So Paul,
You want
when
that
I'm
one
out
like
your way-
warm.
What's that, Richard?
Paul, when I'm out your way, I'll look you up
Yeah, when are you coming out?
next year.
Well,
Okay.
I'll bring stuff to the conference, so don't worry, buddy.
Yeah, we'll all kind of be like, we'll be north of Paul.
Yeah,
This
we have our
time
meetups.
This time I want to go early and stay later because I was so stressed in the Big Sur for tearing away and going. I hated to leave. So I
Yeah.
got
I'm gonna do the
right.
same. So I'll probably have my car and we can cruise around together.
Yeah, for all by all means.
You
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah, you can fly in and I'll take care of it.
you gonna stay here at the dojo?
Well, we're gonna be up in Olympic.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Paul.
Come visit.
Oh, come on. That'd be
Yeah,
badass.
come
It's only a
take a
4-hour
road trip.
drive from. I'll fly into Portland. So
Yeah,
Are you-
you
Are you
Yeah.
4 hours from Paul?
3.
Okay.
Richard, if you're driving out, I'll drive with you, man.
It's
Yes.
a long drive, but I'll drive out if you drive. I used to be a long driver, but yeah.
Couple cases of Canadian beer in the back will be good.
Just like two hosers.
Right.
Some moose. You got some moose drool going on.
If you see
Oh
a
my
lady,
gosh.
they
Excellent
take
adventure.
off, eh?
Moose drool. I haven't thought of that in years. I used to drink that in college.
Have
Oh
you
my
seen this
gosh.
shit? Are you kidding me?
Where did this come from? Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Okay, here's another choice, man.
Yeah, I've been following this photographer for a while, but I had never seen this scene, and I was really blown away.
He's another one I discovered on Instagram. Nader's I love his work and
Oh yeah.
consistently, and I think because he comments on my stuff or messaged me that he keeps coming up in my feed. Back then, it doesn't happen that way anymore, but back then. And so it's kind of interesting because those are the glory days where you had this interaction and it keeps showing up, but it's changed. But anyway, his work is so wonderful on many levels. And I chose this one. It was hard to choose one, but there was something about I just feel like I'm going into the light there, you know?
And this is another rule breaker. I was just about to say that. Like, I love how he blew out the highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
So, you know what? It's not about correctness. It's about appropriate. So,
Yeah, and the
you know,
feeling.
people talk about the correct exposure.
That's a
Well, this
good
is
way
the
to frame
appropriate
it.
one.
That's a really. I love what you just said there.
So it's not correct. It's appropriate for the intended message, not
Yeah.
correct as in technical things, right?
Because in reality, this is probably like a really high contrast scene or really deep, dark shadows. But I love this rendering of it where, you know, the shadows are a lot more open. You can see all the detail, and then the light's just blown out. It's completely white. It just feels very angelic, very heavenly, and I love it. And that's kind of something that I don't do myself.
It just draws you into the picture.
Yeah. It's just like,
Yeah.
This is what I want to see when
Pretty
I
high note
die.
there, buddy.
Yes.
This is what
That you
I
guys
want to
think
see
of?
when I die. They talk about you see the light, you go into the light. I want to go into
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Dude, this is a good poll. This is
Yeah.
really,
But
really.
Eric, before you were talking about like, you know, like what with the scene, like what's the subject, but it's also like what are you trying to say, you know? And it's
the subject here is the light coming through the forest.
Yeah.
Like that's the message. That's the idea, the whole purpose behind this one, just showcasing that
I
feeling.
believe these aspens are in California. Right? On his caption.
Yeah, that's a really great call.
Yeah.
So doesn't it just feel right? I mean, you know, people there was a thing I read recently about, and it struck with me a lot, and that was, you know, was this photograph, the particular photograph they were talking about, was this something that you really saw when you made it? And what they should have asked was, is this something that you felt when you made it?
That is
Right.
that is so good.
And that
Yeah.
can help direct you into the approach of this, right? If you can actually pinpoint, why did I stop here and not somewhere else, and kind of like address that, and then, you know, you can work with that.
Dude, that
Yeah.
is such a good comment. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the emotional impact. It doesn't matter because there is no reality, is there? I don't know about it.
But something else I would add to that is it doesn't necessarily need to represent the feeling that you experience in the moment either. Cause I've made photographs in very crowded places where I was frustrated, annoyed by the people around me. And the photo emits a very peaceful, calming feeling that's completely contrary to that. So that's like maybe the feeling that I was wanting to experience, you know, that I portrayed through the photo. And I think that's also valid and important to think about.
Where the hell are you photographing?
Any national park in the US,
Oh, right. Okay.
Zion or yeah.
you know, it's what you're wanting
I
versus
see.
what you're experiencing, right?
I mean, a lot of times I'll be photographing a really peaceful little leaf scene or some ice, and every 2 minutes a person comes by and asks like, what the hell I'm shooting. And then I explain to them and they're like disappointed. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I can't stand that.
yeah.
What are you
it
looking
happens a
at?
lot in the Walmart parking lot.
So it's like, I didn't necessarily get to experience the feeling that the image evokes for others that view it afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, it's super true.
Yeah. This is just stunning. They always say, don't go towards the light, but I would walk toward this light.
Hell
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
It's so sick. Yeah.
I've been inspired by William Neal to do this kind of high key thing, and I never I've done it, but I never thought
Like
about
high
doing.
key in direct light, like not just soft light scenes, but scenes with like strong contrast and
Well,
make them
yeah,
high key.
seeing how far you can take them into a high key approach, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for me in Lightroom Raw, I mean, if I hit the J key and turn on the clipping, I always want to see how far I can push it just to see what it will do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And technically know that you haven't clipped it. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, I mean, there's so many exciting things you can do if providing you capture the proper exposure, not the correct exposure, but the proper one.
Yeah, it's got to complement the subject matter like it does here.
Of course.
Like it just makes
Yeah.
the subject matter sing.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure.
And you have to be careful with forests. I mean, there's always that thing about the edges, right? And not having something too awkwardly clipped on the edge. And I mean, sometimes it's
nice spacing
difficult. Yeah, it's nice spacing, but yeah, it goes to that point where your eye goes to the lightest parts, and that's also true in black and white as well. Yeah, just feels right. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. So I hope everybody's following him.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness, yes.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah,
He
he's
seems like a super nice guy as well. Very polite and very humble, and I love humble people.
Almost, it strikes me like all his, at least the images that we see of his work, in social media is super tight. It's just spot on.
So Eric, did I do okay on selections?
Yeah, we're not done
Just say
yet,
yes.
but you've so we always like to give our favorite photos a second feature, and we put them in our playlist called Greatest Hits, where we'll just have like short clips from episodes that people can check out, kind of previews
Yes.
for the show.
Good idea.
And it's like I'm just thinking about like which one I would select from this episode, and it's so hard because to me, like
tough.
all of these have been great contenders for that.
Yeah. Gosh, what do you
Have we
I
ever
could have
done
chosen
2 from
100
one
more.
episode? I don't think so.
I don't think we have.
No.
But yeah, might have to
This might
do
be
that with
an
this one.
option. This might be pretty much year 6.
This one's super crazy too. I have no idea what the hell I'm looking at. I mean, eyes,
love it.
but what else?
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you what it is because I don't want you to just change your view of it. Do you know that when you tell somebody the label of something, they stop looking at it?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that when we get to your images. I'm going to bring that up because that's something I was thinking about.
Right.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Ken Fallu is from Quebec City, Canada. And I was mentoring him quite a bit during the pandemic. And he was making submissions and he was organizing his work, and he was making submissions to the landscape photographer or the natural landscape photographer awards with Matt Payne. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And anyway, I don't know all the data on, I think 2 years in a row he had images in the book. I don't remember the details it doesn't matter to me about awards, but the fact is that his images were published and are beautiful. So you may have seen it, but I don't know if this one was, but I love his work and I wanted to choose something that was ambiguous and exciting and engaging. And I think, it's wonderful when you look at an image and say structurally and all this is great. And then I'm just going to indulge in my imagination of enjoying it. Now, obviously it's ice, right? And so it's very ambiguous, isn't it? Is he looking down on this ice? Is he looking under it, or is he looking
Right.
across? So, but look at that.
That's what I love.
The triangle, the strong geometric shape is a base of this, like the pyramid, right?
Yeah. And
And
it's kind of like, it feels like it's like breaking through the ice, like there's
like
a lot of
ship would.
motion. Everything else is,
There's an implied energy, and if you look at if you want to abstract this into the geometric forms, and I used to teach a night class, and I had painters and photographers where we deconstruct images. So if you just said deconstruct this into a shape, so you have a rectangle at the top, you have another rectangle occupied by the remaining part of the picture space, and you have a triangle. So you have basic geometric shapes building this image, and the rest of it is all the detail. But I'll let you guys talk about it, and even that little bit of black on the rock is wonderful.
Yeah.
So
What I love about this
and I'll be
show
quiet.
is I was already following Ken Fallu's work, but I'd never seen this image before. So,
Yeah.
this image is incredible.
The same year that Jason Pettit was in Natural Landscape Awards, he was in that same year, I believe.
It might have been from there that I found him or something, but I know I'm following him. The name was definitely familiar to me, but I'd never seen this before, and I really love this.
Like
so if you do follow him on Instagram, also check out his website. And I agree with Eric, you should have a good website. And I can't wait to have good representation like that, because I'm so envious when I see all these beautiful portfolios. But anyway, also check out, he has a beautiful layout in his website if you want to really see these big. So.
Yeah, he's got some really good stuff. His images are really great. I've seen this one before. And I really, really loved it. And he's got good stuff.
There's a lot of implied motion here. Like nothing is literally moving, but it feels like this triangle is moving upward, and those vertical lines feel like air bubbles or something. Like it's pushing through the ice. And then, I love that about this. It's just, it has a lot of this implied motion. It's very energetic, and yet it's a static scene by nature.
Yeah. That's a good way to frame it up, dude. Like it has.
That's not easy to do, like rock scenes that have a lot of motion to them, even though the rocks they've been in the same place for millions of years. Like nothing's actually moving, but the photographer composes it in a way that just gives it a lot of energy and implied motion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is so simple, but it says so much. Like there's so many different ways that you can look at this and perceive it.
Again, going against those rules too.
Totally
central point.
I love
it. Need to rehab then.
I think I'm a kid of the 70s here. Like I immediately went to Jaws with this one.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like a shark breaching the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I can hear that song in my head.
Yeah, it has an implied a feeling of implied motion, doesn't it? Like that moving, almost like an icebreaker looking down on the bow of it, moving towards. Yeah. So you have this tension, right?
It's that triangle,
right? I guess the point against the line. Like it's gonna
that horizontal line up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very opposing.
Yep.
So it's truly engaging, and that's what fine images are all about.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Viewer engaging your imagination, and I love the fact that every viewer has a different interpretation because they all come from different backgrounds and different experiences. Mm-hmm. That's what's exciting.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
it's a shark fin.
Everyone's experience is a little bit different. It would be a really killer print for Imanola's wall.
Yeah,
stacking up dollars. He's added a new wing lately, I've heard.
Well, gallery, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the.
He just started charging admission for his house.
That's why he's not here. He's putting on a new.
We need to shred that guy. He's not here today. Let's just, let's just tear him up.
For anybody wondering, he still is a part of the cast. He's just been busy, and it's been hard to coordinate with him. But I usually throw him under the bus, but he actually was really distraught that he couldn't be here tonight, Richard. He was really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
He totally was.
I text with him or message with him on Instagram, and he was,
He made a comment today that he could not get his tiger shirt that he wanted tailored for this episode, so he's going to skip it. But he would catch us all on the flip side.
Yeah.
The bugger was he put it in the dryer on high for like an hour.
Yes, that was the thing right there, and cutting the sleeves off just wasn't like doing it justice.
Like Eddie Van Halen.
Yes, literally.
Mike's our glue. He's a savage. He's a complete savage.
So I assume this image is from Namibia, but I've seen a lot of Namibia images, and this one feels pretty unique, and it also looks older, like it's film. And
it is film, I believe so. Yeah, back in the day. But
I hadn't heard of this guy, but
very dramatic image, and the contrast, and it's really about shape. And then the scale of that one tree is it really makes that feel more powerful because you see a tree and then you see the difference.
A tiny tree, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in life, it's a pretty big tree, but yeah.
Well, yeah, a tiny tree that you know should be large.
So Maurice Henri is from Moncton, New Brunswick, and this is Eastern Canada, right? And the first time I met him was 2004 is the first time I met him, and I was a keynote at a conference in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, and he wanted to interview me. He was doing a TV series on photographers, it's like a PBS thing equivalent in US. And it was called Photo, and I was interviewed, and I was like scared to death of being interviewed because I'm very shy and it's really hard for me to do all this stuff. And I thought he would forget me, and then he was I just finished my talk, and then I was walking up, the ramp in the auditorium. So he said, "Let's go now and do it." I said, "Oh no." So that was the first time I'm so shy about that stuff. And so he's a pretty amazing photographer, professional photographer over the years, doing studio work and stuff like that. Very creative. And he does this, he has ArtQuest photo workshops, his company, and street photography and nature and very creative things. He operates cameras for healing, and he did a 3-year commitment to work in Haiti with teenagers. And as a director of the Cameras for Healing, it's a program that introduces the concept of visual art as a philosophy and healing for victims of post-war trauma.
Never heard of them.
He worked with different things like that. So he would go in and take cameras and these kids that had no opportunity, and he would help them be creative and stuff like that. So he got some pretty tight situations in Haiti when, how the uprising there is pretty tough. And he's had some situations where they just made it out on a plane before they couldn't. And so he's quite a trooper, but very creative photographer, does lots of exhibitions and printmaking. And he's also, part of that East Coast. I call it the Eastern Canada thing. And so he's a very great guy too. Very, very genuine and giving person. So it's nice when you see a talented photographer that's also a wonderful person too. So it's good.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing.
Sure.
And there's nothing worse than somebody that's, so full of their ego that they, it's like the worst thing to do is if you ever meet your hero musician and you find out they're an asshole, then you think, oh, shit.
I love it.
But it's very
that's
seldom
very
that
true,
would happen. It's very seldom that would happen, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys talk about this, or you already did a little bit. But
Yeah, this is really cool. This is stunning. That light, those lines.
Yeah, very graphic.
The scale just punches you in the face here, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, it's still just you're going back and forth trying to sort that out.
very dynamic, right? So dynamic simplicity and
Mm-hmm.
having that little strip on the bottom is nice.
Yeah.
Going back to that old comment that I was told every photograph needs a base. Well, this photograph benefits from a base, and it's appropriate for this image and that situation, but not all. But you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
and the position of that tree is cool. Yeah.
Again, feel
Yeah,
like
it's really crazy.
we're breaking a lot of those rules that should never be broken. Yeah.
Rebels.
My comment was someone going to come and arrest you?
Yeah. The photography police.
Here comes the design of police.
Break all the rules.
I'm glad you mentioned his street photography because it's exceptional.
He's got amazing street photography.
Take a look at least just the dose on the Instagram. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Whole different genre.
And, Canada being a smaller place, I suppose, but he happens to be friends with Freeman Patterson as well in the Eastern Canada. We're all sort of friends together, but we don't get together as much as we used to, but because of, a little bit of distance. But also, I also mention that he's very, he's got the order of his city he lives in, Moncton, right? It's like, because he does so much charity work, and so he gives so much to the community. and for the underprivileged and so on. But that's pretty cool. But he was doing this project at an old historic theater in Moncton, and I forget the title of it. It was they had John Sexton was there. I was a keynote there as well, the same year as Douglas Kirkland, who was a very famous Hollywood photographer, Marilyn Monroe and so on. And he was from Canada originally, but he just passed away last year. But I got to spend the whole weekend hanging out with him, and it was in an old theater. It reminded me of a Venetian theater that we presented in, and so I was on the. When I arrived in Moncton, I flew down, and when I arrived, they would drive me to my hotel. There was this old theater with the little light bulbs, the old marquee, and it had my name on it, Richard Martin, the title of my seminar, and I thought that was so cool. I've never had that before, and that was a pretty cool experience. But yeah, so those things are always fun and great memories. But
yeah, and those are kind of things that don't happen anymore. Like none of us have those kinds of stories because all of our shit is just virtual. Like I don't know, it's not as memorable because it's just not physical. Like there isn't that tangible quality of it, like an exhibition or, like this, this place where you displayed your work and is the only way you could see it at the time, because the internet didn't exist. Like I feel like that's really special, and those are things that we've lost, even though there's other opportunities open to us now because technology is advanced, but there's other things that we've lost that I would like to see come back more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. But those are good memories. And every time I have these good memories, there are things that I never planned, and nothing was planned. Even when I went to that conference in Halifax with where Freeman was a keynote and Stephen was, and I was, and Andre Gallant, another amazing photographer in Eastern Canada. I honestly didn't even know that all those people were there because I didn't even have time to look at the. I just said I'm going there. I was asked to go, and I show up, and I kind of knew there was a couple of people, but I was so excited to find out that all these people were there, and we hung out. And you can't plan that stuff, and it's just all serendipity. And I think some of the best memories of my life have been unplanned, and also in my photography, with the less planned. I mean, obviously you have to plan a little bit, but when I go out and don't have any preconceived notions of what's going on, I don't even worry about the weather and stuff like that. If it's windy, it's not windy, I'll just look at something different. And those things are great memories. So we have to live in the moment and take those in. But it is nice to be able to connect like that. Yeah.
Super
cool. Absolutely.
Has anyone ever heard of Maurice? And I was hoping I was bringing some people in, some photographers into this that you may not have heard of. And I think for the most
I hadn't heard of most of them. Only Andrew and Freeman, Patterson, and that might be it. Oh, and Ken Fallu.
Right.
Seems like Jimmy knew about Maurice.
I think it's or did I send you? I don't know, but you may have found him before.
No, I would honestly say just like instantly connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff, but
yeah, no, you made some great selections, as I knew you would. So yeah, I really appreciate that. But who's ready to see some dick pics?
Oh, let's see some dick.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I knew that was going to happen.
2 hours.
Oh, good.
All right.
So I actually chose this one because I'm always just so impressed. I mean, I love this image.
I'm sorry.
I love this image ever since you first posted it, but I'm always just so impressed with how much you can do with so little. Like this is just a photo of a rock and some moving water, but it is so compelling. It's just so engaging, and it's just, I don't know, it's so unlike anything I've ever made. So to me, this one is just so impressive.
Super well seen. It's
why we hate you, Richard.
Yeah. Exactly.
It is good.
This is so good. Where was this at, and tell us about it?
Sure. I'm a duffer, by the way, as a camera guy. But this was made in Nova Scotia. I did a personal photography trip with Stephen Patterson and actually Andrew as well. And this was on Briar Island in the Bay of Fundy, which if you look at Nova Scotia, there's a finger of land that points out towards Maine. And you have to take a ferry to Long Island, then another ferry to Briar Island. and it's very magical there. So the tides are quite changeable, and some parts are 35 feet every 6 hours in difference. So I'm looking down on the ocean from these basalt rock formations.
Yeah, this one, like the perspective has always tripped me out. Like I can't tell if it's big or small, or if you're like above looking down, or like it just like the way the rock is, how you're kind of looking at the top of it, but then the water feels like it's like right. I don't know. The compression's crazy.
Yeah, I like that. It's a pretty straightforward shot. Probably, I don't know, maybe a 50. I have a 2470 on, so it was probably like somewhere in that area. Maybe it doesn't matter.
So it's kind of like mid range.
Yeah, 50 millimeter, something like that. But so I'm looking down onto the ocean below, which is not like maybe like 10 feet below, and I'm first of all I'm looking for a structure to put with the water motion of the waves, and so I designed that pyramid at the bottom. It's kind of a rough pyramid of shape.
Right.
And then I'm just playing with the timing of the ocean. And I have a lot of experience with this. So my favorite time, and most of you know this, is when the waves crash in and then they pull back.
Yeah.
That's when I click. And I usually start with 1/6 of a second, and then I'll just see how it plays out. Now, this one, I should show a series sometime, but I did a series of different shutter speeds, and they're all interesting, but this was my favorite. I just fascinated by, I did this in Big Sur as well. I'm fascinated by the behavior of water at a certain shutter speed. And I'd have to look up the metadata, but I don't know, this is like, from my experience, usually 1/4 of a second to 1/6 of a second works nicely, but it all depends on focal length and distance and so on.
Yeah, how fast the water's moving and
And I do a lot of this in Newfoundland as well, but so it was nice because some of them you could see right through the water. Some images I have where you can see the seaweed through the water, wispy parts. And you know what, I just feel like so high from just doing that. And for me, it's like the biggest injection of positivity that I can get, just taking the camera and going out and making pictures. And I didn't wake up that morning thinking about this picture. It's not in a guidebook. There's no lines drawn on the rocks for me. And it's interesting how the four of us were there and we never talked to each other. We just said, we'll meet at this certain time. And I may see somebody over there and somebody over there, but we're just doing our own thing. And then we get together afterwards and have something to eat or drink the odd pint or so on.
Yes.
Yeah, this was amazing.
Yeah.
Just has like there's like a complexity to it, the water, like it's like uniform. There's a lot of uniformity, but also just complexity, like that water texture is really crazy.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say like 1/4 second to like, what you were saying. That's my favorite shutter speed to use on water like this, because you keep that texture without getting that like super dreamy, super smooth.
Yeah, I like it both. But I'm really getting into the in-between part, and it's a tough one, but there's something about over time I've been experimenting with in-between because there's such a trend to do long exposures, and that's beautiful as well. But sometimes when things get trendy, so to speak, I go the opposite direction. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
And trends inevitably circle back around. So you're just ahead of the curve.
It's like fashion, if you wait long enough, whatever you're wearing might back in style.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, look at Eric.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's a good call, Jimmy.
Who's keeping score here?
Yes. Hey, Richard, did you pour something new?
I did. I have a.
Hey, you got something dark in there now, and you're halfway through it.
Call.
Hey, talk to us about that.
Oh, it's called Midnight Odyssey, and it's brewed actually in my little city of Kingston, and it's an oatmeal stout. It's a limited release, and it's a malted barley and oats, 5.9% alcohol.
Nice. Sounds like some Salt Lake shit. Sounds like some Salt Lake shit.
There's one gram of
Midnight Odyssey.
What'd you say?
Negative alcohol.
I said that sounds like some Salt Lake shit.
It's because there are certain like laws about alcohol and stuff in Utah still that are pretty behind.
Are you saying 5.9 is too low?
That's really light for a stout. Yeah. Stouts are usually like 10% or above, but like, yeah, like Irish stouts, stuff like that. They're usually like 5 or 6%, like a lot more drinkable.
Bennett's usually banging out 15% stouts, Richard.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I'll bring
I'm not
one
even
to
joking.
the conference.
That's not even funny. I mean, I'm not even like exaggerating.
That will make my motion studies better. So when someone asks you what was the shutter speed, you just say it's 2 stouts in a quarter of a second.
Yes, that's so good.
There's
What the hell is this?
Didn't someone have a 15% stout a few episodes ago?
Hey, you need to stop.
That happens often, but yeah, Paul was probably the last one to do it.
Paul.
Yeah, that was a bad deal.
He's just like this for the whole episode.
I don't know if I'm man enough to do that.
I was foaming at the mouth. I was
Jack
like,
Nicholson in The Shining.
I just thought I was going to crack it, have a couple of sips, and then I was like, this thing's empty. What happened?
Well, and then you disappeared for a while, and I was like, "Where'd Paul go?"
He's shuffling through his like tool case or something.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't even know.
Who chose this image?
Socket? So I chose this one.
Cool.
But Paul, this was one of Paul's selections as well. He sent me several, but yeah, Jimmy chose it first.
Dude, this is sick, dude. Jimmy, do it.
Beat you out.
Yeah.
So Richard, this was like from your double exposure or triple exposure?
Yeah, well,
It's a montage.
It's a montage, but it's the same thing as double exposure. So the creative idea behind this could be done.
But it wasn't an in-camera double exposure.
No, it could be in camera, but it wasn't. But it's the same thing as one. So it's 2 images put together like a double exposure, but it was done as a montage.
Yeah, and it, by no means that takes away from any of it. You know, it's just it
reminds me of a Jackson Pollock kind of thing.
Dude, it's so dope. It's so dope.
So something I was wondering is, are you ever hesitant of like, it's not that you hide it, but like, are you hesitant of disclosing how you made these kinds of images because people might be distracted by like the technical process rather than just enjoying the visual experience?
Yeah, no, I don't have no secrets. So if anybody wants to know how I did it, I always tell them. And I did a talk out of Chicago. One of my talks was on impressionism or something like that.
Oh yeah.
So I actually showed X and Y and what the results was. But okay, going back in history, my first camera was a Leica, and it had multiple exposure modes. So 42 years ago, I was doing multiple exposures because I had a little lever that could advance. It wouldn't advance the film, right? And I was doing that in conjunction with The Creation, the book where he had in the back of the book how he did all these double exposures. And so I was teaching workshops, and no one had the function to do multiple exposures. So the next best thing was with the slides on the light table, doing superimposing with the 2 images, right? Same concept. And now fast forward to digital, you can do the same thing in Photoshop. But the creative idea is no different than when I did it with film. So there's that. And then this image is made up of, these are crushed ice on the lake. So I'm photographing a pattern of crystal ice that is on the water. It's just floating in the bay. It hasn't moved. And I carefully look straight down on the ice and have this even pattern of fractured ice. And then later on, I love to play. And generally, if you have a glass of wine in one hand and the hand on the mouse in your right hand, depending which right-handed, I play around with these concepts. And this was a shrub with little winter berries in it, and I just played around with these combinations. And
what even made that click where these 2 images would combine together? What even sparked that idea to put them in a montage?
Experience is one, and the other one is being under the influence of painters.
So which image did you see first? Was it the ice one and you're like, oh, I'm going to combine it with this one? Or was it the photo of the berries and you're like, oh, I'm going to combine it with the ice one?
That's a great question, because the ice is the foundation of this image. So usually when I do these, there's a foundational part, which is the base, and which is, I would say, would be the more dominant part of the structure. And then I would I would put on top of that some kind of texture, or in this case, I didn't need texture. I'm looking for these little pops of red from the berries in this shrub. And the shrub itself was as crazy organic as the ice. So there's a harmony in structures in nature and the fractals and so on. So I try to combine images that in nature that are similar in their craziness. In terms of this case, it's chaos and branches with berries. So, but the blending mode, which is one more advantage of doing it afterwards, because some cameras, like Canon cameras, have blending modes. I have a Nikon that doesn't have blending modes, but even if it did, I wouldn't want to be experimenting with them because I don't like to get too complicated with my image making. I'm pretty kindergarten straightforward with my making photographs. So I wouldn't want to monkey around with different blending modes. So you have more flexibility, but it doesn't matter. As Freeman would always say, it doesn't matter how you made the picture. The fact is, what matters is that you made it with your intellect and your emotions, and you present it to the world like that. So there's my long answer to your short question.
This might sound weird, but what I especially love about all of your double exposure images or montages is that they never feel like double exposure images or montages. Like when I look at this, I mean, when I first interpret it, like it could be like spider webs. Like I think of it as like a single exposure. Like I don't even really consider that, I don't know. There's something distracting sometimes about double exposures and stuff where it's too obvious as to how the photographer made it. Cause then I'm just thinking about the technical things and like, oh, where does one image begin and the other one end? Like, you know what I mean? Whereas this, like, it's just so well done. I just only focus on, just the scene itself, not how it was made or anything. Like there's no breaking the fourth wall here.
Well, that's
I really
nice
love that about your stuff. Like it never feels or looks like double exposures the way it is.
Yeah, so I think that's nice to hear, and thanks. But I think that I call this technique, right? So technique in photography, whether you're doing motion studies or multiple exposures or all those things that are interpretive, right? And you're just working with the limitations of the medium and so on. But for me, technique should lie down and behave, and it shouldn't be in your face. I think that's my belief and what I do. And so that, I guess I'm being successful with that if you say that. But I mean, there was a few on that PDF I sent you, right? There was a few combinations.
Because technique can definitely be a distraction. Because then the viewer is just wondering how it was made. They're wondering like all these things that are essentially irrelevant because it's all about the final result. It's not about the process. Like how long it took you to hike there, where you stood, what lens you used. That stuff doesn't matter. It's all about,
of course,
what you made at the end of all those decisions.
And, ultimately it's an expression. It's really like a fingerprint or something of your own personal stuff. But I think about a non-photographer looking at this in a gallery. They don't really care how you made it. They just either react to it. It either speaks to them or doesn't, right? And it's kind of interesting to hear non-photographers or even painters that look at work. And I have a lot of painter friends that quite like my work. And I think on that level, I think that's wonderful. Because they're not thinking about, I just can't stand equipment stuff. I mean, well, anyway, yeah. So I could really kind of care less about my equipment, although I do like my Nikon. Anyway, I get, sold half.
As long as it doesn't get in the way, like that's all I care about with equipment. Like I like the newer stuff because it's a lot smoother, more streamlined, easier to use, quicker.
Exactly. And
less cumbersome.
Your camera equipment should be like an old baseball mitt, all worn in, worked in, and you have a reaction, spontaneous, and you just do it. And I have very little interference right now with the Nikon Z7, and I probably it's only like 3% technical and the rest is artistic, and I love that. I mean, it's never been better for me to be so reactive because I love being reactive to things and I don't like to be bogged down and technical.
Right.
I know my craft and I think everybody should learn their craft. It doesn't take very long, but it's so sad when I'm helping people in the field and we're spending all our time with the bloody tripod and the equipment and oh my God, it's just exhausting.
It is. Yeah.
It's like playing the bagpipes or something and trying to
make it sound nice.
Yeah, right. I get made fun of for my tripod because I'm like when I take apart my tripod. I mean, I'm such a clumsy person. I would never win that contest for collapsing a tripod because it's like I'm such a spaz. Wow. Who chose this one?
That was me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You love
I
abstract.
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know
love
what
this
she was
one.
thinking. I don't know.
Is this any good?
Oh my gosh. I love this one. I mean, I honestly, a few that have been shown, I was actually contemplating picking 2, but I kept coming back to this one. I gave Eric 2, but this was my.
Where'd you find this?
It was on Instagram. It was
okay.
down.
Yeah, you posted
quite
it
a
not too
ways.
long. Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought so. Or yeah, maybe it wasn't that long ago. But I don't know. I mean, I just remember when I first saw this, there's just something about it. Like, I just have so many questions, but it just draws me in. And I don't know what I'm looking at. And I love that. Like,
I don't want you to know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's.
Right, that's irrelevant.
My gosh.
I know why you're drawn to this, I think. Isn't that kind of a marine thing?
I think so. Yeah. It reminds me of a different number of things. Like, to me, at the bottom, even though they kind of disappear towards the top, it looks like frozen leaves almost. I don't know what's going on there. I like the transition from like the super darks to the lights. I mean, it could be a wave on a beach. They could be icebergs from an aerial. I mean, I take this so many different ways and I just find it fascinating and I get lost in it every time.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you appreciate this.
It's so cool.
Because most people wouldn't, you know.
I love stuff like this.
What was your kind of thought process behind this one, Richard? Or
it's pure visual and it's a straight photograph. It's not like, you know,
single exposure,
single shots, hardly.
So is this water like on a window, maybe?
You
don't want to say.
It's a shower.
As soon as I tell you what it is, you're gonna just not look at it anymore. But I'll tell you what it is in a moment.
It's water on a window.
I'm sorry about believing. Yeah,
it's moisture on a beer can.
I'd forgotten about this. Yeah, it's called beer glass.
Yes.
Daii.
I shot it at the tailgate party with Paul.
Yes.
So what's kind of funny is this is one of your images where I would have assumed this is a double exposure, and it's
Isn't
not.
that interesting? Because this is the one that isn't a double exposure. That's pretty cool.
Right. And then the last one, I hadn't really ever thought about it. I kind of discovered it was a double exposure once I looked through the presentation you sent us.
Yeah. So all photographs are symbols and of our subconscious, right? And I think it's, as Freeman does a lot of dream interpretation stuff, and he has a recorder beside his bed. So when he has dreams, when he wakes up, he records them, what the dream was about, and he's really into that. And this is a long. Sorry, I'll be quicker. But he did a workshop with someone who did a workshop with me in Toronto, who wanted me to do one with them, and they were a psychiatrist, and they did dream interpretations in their practice, and so I said, if you can interpret dreams, you can interpret pictures, and that was pretty cool. But anyway, so there's symbolism in here, and I love the fact that how you're interpreting this in different ways, and the fact that Eric thought it was a double exposure maybe, and when it's a single photograph and it's just straightforward, almost on, processing was only like 15 seconds on this, and yeah,
that's all you can last.
No, yeah, right. Yeah. Well, there's some. That's funny.
Shit. Oh shit!
I see what you mean, Jennifer.
Yeah.
No, but
That's a fucking savage.
Yeah. Some processing. I'm fairly good at processing, and I think that I can get there fairly quickly because I'm very careful with taking the image and getting the exposure. But I sometimes takes me longer to. Sometimes I can't even process it the way I want. But anyway, I think it's because of low contrast. So do you want to know what it is? And you
don't have to say it. You don't have to say it. I was just thinking out loud. I honestly don't care.
It. I think when
it won't make the image any better for me. So
no, okay. Well, I mean,
I already don't care for this. So
okay. So Jennifer, do you remember? And you may not have seen it, but I did a talk I did 4 years in a row out of Chicago, and I think Eric was on most of those too, right?
Yeah, Ashero
And
Live.
I did a presentation. I think it was the same year I did a keynote, where I already had the
Oh, yeah.
presentation done, and I was asked to do a keynote. And I thought, shit, I've already done the other presentations, so
Because the
I'm doing
presentation was
more
like an
than-
hour long and the keynote's like 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something.
Well, it's supposed to be short, but I went a little cheated over that. But anyway, so I did a program called out working with outside your boundaries. I forget what the title was. I'm terrible with memories, but so this was part of that. So this is from a junkyard, and
What?
and I
Wait.
go.
Back up.
What the fuck?
Here's my
going with
secret.
water.
Here's my secret to learning how to compose and stuff. And this was influenced by Stephen Patterson as well, as we've been friends for 39 years or 35 years. Going into a automobile junkyard and you know, and I know I don't give a crap about cars. I don't care about that. I love sculpture and art and so on, and I love learning how to see and compose. So I'm photographing landscapes of the mind as symbolisms. And I'm photographing stuff in junkyards as they are that are like nature. And that's my sort of theme, right? So this is a window in a junkyard.
Have you ever seen
That
this
is-
book by Mike Osborne, Ex Machina?
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I was going to say you need to check that out if you haven't, but
Okay. I know what the title was. My presentation was called Crossing Boundaries, and how it's an advantage if you go outside your genre. And this is for many different disciplines. You'll strengthen your original genre by going back and forth and stretching yourself in terms of seeing. So for me, it's about the art of seeing, because that's the art of photography. But it doesn't matter. We have the best camera in the world. If you can't see, you don't have a vision. It doesn't matter what equipment you have. And it's a training horse and a ground, and I just love working in those. And I found one during the pandemic that was in an old forest, and it's just taken over by nature, but everything is decaying. And I'm looking at abstract expressionist paintings and windows and doors and stuff like that. And you've probably seen some of that. I think it was in some of my talks, but
But what is
so
your
that's-
genre? Because you have photos of like natural landscapes, very abstract stuff, urban landscapes, people, portraits stuff. Like, what is your
modern
genre?
architecture.
Yeah. Do you even
But it
have a
doesn't
genre
water
really?
me
Because
down. Yeah. It doesn't water me down in terms of strength. And you know how the people say, well, you play the drums, you can't play guitar or stuff like that, right? And I think that there's a style within all the work, I believe. And I mean, if people like my natural world stuff, I have equally as good, street photography. I don't like the label street photography because I'm not really a street photographer. I don't even know what the hell you call it, but I just
because you kind of have the same approach for all these different subjects, I would say.
But my style of composing is the same on all of them. My sensitivity to color and shape and so on.
That's what unifies like your whole body of work, even though it's all over the place in terms of subject matter. It's very unified because it has the same approach and idea behind it. Like you're kind of trying to get the same thing out of all of it, just with different materials to do that.
Yeah, and I did a talk on the last Camera Canada on wabi-sabi, the idea of the Japanese aesthetic. And I have these images of an interior wall of this building that was ruined in an earthquake. And we had about 2 hours to be inside this building. And I found this picture of a wall that looks like you would swear it was nature. It was like fallen leaves and stuff, and it was just decaying wall. And those things really excite me. And it keeps me fresh. And I don't know, it's symbolic though. And this is very much like nature to me. And that's what I was drawn to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I never would have guessed it was,
So I feel that I've ruined it by telling you what it is, but anyway.
No,
not at all.
No.
And that's something that I really enjoyed about this book. It's like nature reclaiming these things that humans have made. So it's still nature. It's just it's not like nature. It's like nature
in terms of books, I mean,
things.
I'm so overdue for books. I could do so many books because I have
you need to make
body
one.
of work from these places, and I got to get to town on that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's another one I've always loved from you because it's just like so simple, but it's just, I don't know. To me, it's just so compelling. And it's a great black and white image. But like when I look at this, I feel like those plants in reality are very small. And then you have these like big mountains in the background somehow that you've put together, but they feel like they take on the shapes of like trees, or like they feel like trees or something. And I don't know, this one,
the scale.
yeah, this one's super creative in terms of composition in my mind.
So I go
Yeah.
to Oaxaca, Mexico every year. Before pandemic, I did 6 years in a row of back-to-back workshops there. And this is from one of the workshops. And this is we're really up in the mountains, or in the Monte Alban, which is a heritage site and ruins, the Aztec ruins. And I'm looking back into the valley of the city, and it's atmospheric haze and a little bit of pollution and that kind of thing. And so it's just a pure, simple graphics, and it's kind of like what I like to do is like create this visual poem, and I don't know. And when I made this image, I knew it was going to be black and white because I'm a black and white photographer. Most people don't know that, but I kind of feel like I'm a black and white photographer working in color, because structure is so important to the foundation of the images. And instead of letting just color be the main part, of course, color affects our emotional response, and we can't control that amongst the viewers because we all have color biases. But sometimes in black and white, it neutralizes everything and brings it into uniformity. And by the way, I'm doing a talk end of July for Nick Stover on black and white photography, which most people might be surprised because they don't know me for black and white, but for the most part.
That's an interesting point you made about black and white, because like, people could associate the color red with like either romance or violence, like depending on their past experiences, or like the color blue, with like being very calming, or it could be very depressing. But black and white kind of brings everybody to like the same starting point with the image. Like it brings everybody to the same spot to interpret the image. I never thought about that before.
Color is hard to do well, I think. And it's, I like them both. And what makes me sad is in the industry, there's such a war on black and white and color. Why is there that? Why can't we work in both, or one or the other?
Why is it a dichotomy?
Why does black and white have to be the only, I was told once that you have a great eye, you should do real photography and do black and white.
Yeah. When I hear like photographers only do black and white, I'm like, that's kind of dumb, because there are some scenes where the colors are just like, I don't know, that's just such an important part of it. Like, why would you box yourself in and like limit yourself? And
yeah,
I think it's wonderful because I don't have to carry 2 cameras anymore. When the film days, I had to carry a camera, a camera with black and white film, and it was awkward. And now I have the basis of anything. I can do anything I want with an image now. I love it. And I just love black and white, but although you don't see as much of it. Although I do have more black and white in my street stuff and my architecture stuff. But yeah, it's hard to explain. You know what? I honestly don't think about anything I do. I just do it because I need to do it. And afterwards, someone says something and I think, I didn't know that, but I don't know. So I think this is more appropriate. The color version of this is nice, but this is way nicer because it's just neutralized to graphics.
Yeah, I love it. And I bet the little plants in the foreground stand out way more in black and white than they would if there were colors in the background.
Yeah, because there's a lot that gets in the way, right?
They're just slightly darker than everything else here.
Either one, but I just feel really bad about the war on color, the war on black and white, and there's so many things attached to it. But by nature, black and white is abstract, because I don't know about you, but I don't see in black and white.
Right, nothing is actually black and white.
It's already a departure from reality.
Yeah, right off the bat. But and there's always that, back in my days, there was that thing about archivalness, and that the fine art photography was only black and white. But then you have like Ernst Haas in the 40s coming in with color, and Pete Turner and all those guys. And wow. I mean, I love it both. And I feel so good because same thing in music. I can listen to classical music. I can listen to Black Sabbath. I can listen to, folk music, and whatever emotion affects me, I can do that and I can change it. And I feel bad if you only did one thing all the time. I think there's less variety in your life too.
Yeah, you're selling yourself short, especially as an artist. Was that little spot where the plants, there's just like the slightest gap between the top of the plants, like on the right third, and the ridge line behind them. Was that like a conscious thing that you did when you were composing it to make sure those didn't touch, or do you not remember that?
I'm careful with that stuff because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm careful. I mean, years ago, Freeman told me that he said he sat me down after one of the presentations and said, I got to talk to you. He said, you don't waste anything in your composition, and everything has a purpose, right? And that's part of being careful, using a tripod and stuff like that. Although I do go off the tripod more so now when I can because of the higher, ISO settings and stuff, and depending on what situation you're in. But even if I'm hand holding, I'm thinking like a tripod because I use a tripod for, 40, 30 some years, right? And yeah, so I'm conscious of everything I do. Everything has a purpose, and I guess my architectural days comes into play because I'm very precise with everything. At the same time, I'm very playful. So I may joke around a lot and I may be not so serious about a lot of things, but when it comes to composing and locking that composition down, I'm dead serious about that. And, the edges and how it relates to the edges and so on. So you can't always be with certain kinds of photography when you have things changeable. But in this situation, many others that I have, you see, I have no excuse not to sort of get it right. And I never relied on fixing it later because all my auditorium presentations with 500 people in an auditorium and a 50-foot film slide projected on the screen, that was my original. And so I learned for 25 years that I couldn't fix it afterward because my original is my original. And so I think that was, for me, gave me that sort of discipline, although I'm not uptight about it, but it is that foundation for me, and I can't change that. I didn't ask to be born a certain date and have a certain history happening when I was making pictures, but I look back on that and I think that was beneficial.
Yeah, slightly more meticulous in the field.
Yeah, but playful too, though. But be playful.
Right. Yeah, not rigid, but
yeah,
definitely taking everything into consideration because, back then there were more kind of consequences. You couldn't just fix things later on. You're kind of stuck with what you made.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So that's my take.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It feels really nice. Pretty. Yeah. I'm always surprised by what people choose, right?
You didn't think any of us would select this one?
I don't know. I don't even remember this one.
Dude, this one's
who
so
chose
good.
this?
This is mine. And
Paul, I just interrupt. Paul was smoking a lot of cigarettes after this one.
Dude, I was. Took a shower, cold shower, smoked cigarettes. Yeah, I had a hard time. I legitimately had a hard time. I think I originally said 4 or 5 to Eric and everyone else, just going, man, I'm really, really struggling here. But then at the end of the day, I chose this one just because super unique, super badass. I mean, just like most of your portfolio. What can you tell us about this one, Richard?
Thanks. This is a straight photograph right out of the, because I do a lot of weird things sometimes, but this is a straight photograph. Looking down during the pandemic, I lost 7 sold out trips and everything came to a stop, and I was like in a spin because if you're used to just going and going, all of a sudden everything stops quiet. And then I started going out every day to a provincial park nearby. And I went on the same boardwalk every time. And people would say, why don't you just take more of that? I said, I love this spot. I go back and forth and back and forth. And I harvested so many images from that area. So this is taken from a boardwalk in a small gorge, which is a very shallow water. And you can see almost to the bottom sometimes. And this was I had a 2470. So this is on 24 millimeter. And I've learned this technique of holding, because I'm holding my camera over way high. I'm 6'3", so I'm holding the camera way up, and I'm tilting the viewfinder, the electronic viewfinder in the back down a bit. It doesn't go all the way down, but I'm holding it over my head. I'm looking straight down. So it's the equivalent to me having a step ladder with me, and I'm just looking right down on the reflections of the trees with the growth coming through. So it's pretty cool. And it's so ambiguous. I mean, when I shoot this, I say, man, this is like so cool. And I just keep photographing. And I don't know. I don't even know what I was doing. It just spoke to me emotionally, and that's it.
Yeah. There are two main things I really love about this image. First of all, I feel like reflections are a very common theme in nature photography. It's not like a new concept. Everybody photographs reflections. They're very interesting inherently, but you've taken them to another level in your work. Like all your reflection stuff is just so mind bending and so interesting and so cool, especially here, how you have the plants, you know, above the surface of the water coming out and then the reflections behind them. And it's just like this, it makes you bounce back and forth. And then the other thing that I love about this one is the saturation is so intense on the greens and the yellows, but it's so appropriate here. Like you've pushed it super far, I can tell, but it works perfectly for the scene. And I mean, that's something that I don't tend to do myself, like pushing saturation out of realistic bounds. I'm very careful with my colors and keeping them very natural looking. But I love how here you took this artistic decision to depart from reality and totally push that saturation like so high, and it totally warrants it because it really pays off in this image. I feel like that's the signature of a pro, like knowing when to, you know, depart reality, but still not have it be distracting, you know, not have it be unbelievable to the point where it's like annoying.
That's interesting. I think because the green occupies such a spidery part of the picture, right, that I can probably get away with that. It's kind of a judgment call, I guess, you know. Yeah, so it's just fun. I mean, it just blows me away to see reality like this. And, you know, I didn't flip. I could have flipped it. That's the way I made it. But sometimes reflections are interesting when you flip them too. But but that I just like the way this is. I guess it's okay. This wouldn't win any prizes at the county fair, that's for sure. But I don't give a shit, really.
That's right, Richard. Fuck yeah.
So I think by thinking like that, you can make breakthroughs in your image making, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just glad you like it because I don't know, I didn't think anybody would like it, so it's nice.
No, dude, it's dope as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Can I quote you?
Yes.
That's a very high compliment from Paul.
Yeah, I mean it's great. You really crushed it. I mean, with a lot of your images, it's really good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just love that it's like, I don't know, there's like 3 dimensions going on, but not like in the normal sense. Like you get the green grasses, you have the reflection of the trees, but you can see all the little, they almost look like maple leaves, like under the water too. There's just so many.
And again, this is so compelling when it's such a simple image. Like all it is are trees reflecting in water with some grass. That's literally all it is. But it's so visually engaging despite being so little.
There's nothing like along this trail, there's nothing that yells out to the average photographer, oh my God, here's a picture.
Yeah, it's all mundane. And
it's just, you wouldn't believe how, on the surface, how it's not like the great grander places that people will go to. And I think the cool thing is that I think the real test is to go to places like this that are totally uncelebrated. And in fact, I've never seen a photographer on this trail ever, and all the times I was there. Just the odd hiker, the odd time. But I think it's nice to find stuff that basically in my own backyard, so to speak, you know, something that's around 30 minutes or less from your home. And and to do this, and there's no tripod holes here, so there's no places to, you know what I mean. So I think that's a true test of finding stuff. And I think going back to Ken Fallu's work that with the triangle rock and the ice, he photographs everything, and you see in his beautiful work on his website, everything is made within where he lives, and I think that's pretty cool. And I think it's a training ground, right? Because I was forced to rediscover my roots in photography during the pandemic because I did this stuff for years before. And then all of a sudden making a living and doing all these trips and stuff, I kind of lost that. So the pandemic was one, aside from financial terrible financial thing was I went from no income. It made me rediscover my roots in photography, and I, make the best I can out of something that happened, right? And I don't know if you remember the series of images over the times I made in the same area where there was water drops on the water. There was circles of drops of water hitting the
Yeah, like
trees.
ripples.
Yeah, and you could see the leaves below. Some of them are almost like Van Gogh Starry Night, the blue colors, and you could see the yellow leaves on the bottom of the pond, which was only like shallow. And it just blew me away. And it was after a rainstorm. And every time I go back there, and I go there all winter, and I photograph ice formations and little puddles. And I mean, I used to go there 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. And I'd come back from there like I was on a trip. I was on a holiday, and it was only 30 minutes from my house.
Wow.
And this kind of photography of like mundane things that most people can typically find like fairly easily is the kind of photography that changes people's minds and really teaches them something about nature, because like epic, dramatic landscapes of super inherently impressive stuff, like definitely impresses us, and it's amazing, but it can feel very foreign because it's not the stuff we see on a day-to-day basis. And so it doesn't really like connect us with the nature around us more. It doesn't really strengthen our relationship with nature, I would say. But this kind of stuff, like it's showing you how much more there is if you just slow down, take a closer look, and really admire your surroundings wherever you are, even just at a neighborhood park or a local trail, or, maybe in your backyard, depending on where you live. So I really admire this stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that I've been focusing more on as well myself.
Yeah, I think it's I guess you could call this a quiet landscape, in terms of, it's very meditative. I mean, it's unbelievable the power of what happens to you when you go out with your camera and in an ordinary place like this and find this stuff. It's like, I can't explain how powerful that is and positive that is for your well-being. It's like the best drug in the world, and it's like for free, right?
That's a good way to frame it up.
Yeah, I mean, like I come back from these every time I do these, and it might be as little as 3 hours or 2 hours. I just feel like I've been on a holiday, and it's like shit. It's like amazing. Sometimes I have to get off the forced, I have to work on a computer a lot because I write and I organize lectures and so on, but just getting away from it is so wonderful, and I just crave that more and more, and I can't wait to get back out. But there's always those deadlines of, I put a lot of work into lectures, so I put more time than I should probably. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate you liking this. Who picked this game? Was it Paul? Or yeah.
Yep.
Surprisingly, I didn't know he had any taste, but
yeah, I dug deep, Richard.
That's great.
Yeah, no, it was really hard to, like I said earlier, it was really hard to actually pick, like, say which one do I want to showcase, and because I mean your work's fantastic, and this is the one.
That's great. I didn't think I would pick that. Yeah.
So I just couldn't do this episode with sharing this one because this is one of my all-time favorite images of yours. So you chose that for our first promotion for our group critique, or you and I are critiquing it. Absolutely.
Okay. You go back. I love this one. Forest. Yeah.
It's so good.
It's pretty insane. Old, man. Yeah. This was on film.
And this is a great use of color here. I love the blues and then the oranges and the slight red. Mm-hmm. The texture here is just so beautiful too. And the structure is perfect. And it's just a phenomenal scene.
You wouldn't believe how old this image is, man.
How old is it?
You said this was film, Richard?
Yeah, this is probably, this has to be 30 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
so Eric, is this a multiple exposure on film?
Yeah, I do multiple exposure on film. I had every camera I owned from 42 years ago had multiple exposure. But I remember that PDF I sent you recently. The very beginning part there. A lot of that stuff was the first few months of me making pictures. That tree and the rain, and so yeah, it was interesting.
Wow,
lucky at the beginning.
And this is another example where like these blues are really, really saturated. And blue is kind of a color I'm very careful with because it can look gaudy very quickly if you go too saturated with it. But here it like pays off perfectly.
It's
I really love it.
Right? It's appropriate
Yeah.
for the particular scene.
And blue's a tough one. So I really admire when people can punch up their blues and it still looks awesome. It's not distracting or annoying.
I think ultimately it's just a feeling, right? It's a expression of a feeling. I mean, I'm like a tree hugger kind of person, and I can't be in trees enough. I mean, I just love trees and I can't get enough of them. I love rocks as well. And those are the two elemental things that in the natural world that I gravitate to over and over. Obviously I do other things, but those are the core things right from the beginning of my image making. And my image making was a product of just being a child again from my memories of being a kid in the forest, which I was always teased about. I was called Nature Boy when I was a kid because I was always out in the forest and always out in nature. So
Well, now
I
it's
didn't
a
even have a
compliment.
camera, obviously, but it's a
That's
way
cool.
of it's a way for me. Photography is a way of reliving my childhood and expressing the feelings I had then and whatever it takes to get there. And it's all experimental. Yeah.
Awesome.
So did you choose this, Eric? You choose this?
Yeah. There's probably, if I had to pick a favorite image of yours, somebody put a gun to my head, I think it would be this one. It's really hard to just pick one because they're all so different and unique, and you have such a broad range of amazing stuff. But I really, really love this one.
That's great. Yeah, I have to get back to, I mean, in terms of the book thing, I mean, William Neal's been so, and so is Eric, but so adamant on me doing something. And I really feel like I gotta do something. I have so much work kicking around, and I don't know if I have the ambition to self-publish like you did, Eric, but I know that.
Well, not everybody has bad luck like I do. So,
well, I know that's, but still, you got the product though, and it's amazing. And I have to get back to. I was contacted by Kozu and to do a book and talk about ideas, and I haven't. I had to put out the brush fires that I'm doing because the deadline of submitting your talk information in the images and designing the presentation, and it seems like I'm whining, but I just wish I could make pictures all the time and hand it to somebody else and do that. But I'm really feeling the guilt of not doing a book, and I should have.
But the thing is, when you make a book, you're not just like making a product that you can sell to people. You're creating like a work of art with all those images and the way you sequence them, the way you put it together, the cover and everything like that itself becomes like a piece of art. So like you should see it more as, like an art project instead of like a product or something,
Oh, for sure. And I actually would. Yes. And I mean, back in the day, I used to do presentations with twin screens and for music and images. And I have a pretty good sense of pairing images and selecting them. But sometimes it's hard to select your own work, though. I mean, you must know that it's really difficult to select your own work because you're so close to it. But
well, if you ever need help, I'd be happy to pick out like 100 images that you should put in a book for you.
Okay, that's cool. Because Freeman Patterson even said in an interview on Elements magazine that
he said it was better if somebody else picks your stuff because a lot of times they can judge it differently and they're not attached to it.
Because we're too close to it, and that everybody should have an editor. To some degree, right? Certainly, you can argue with the editor, but for the most part, you shouldn't be left solely to do your own stuff. And so
that's a really good.
So
point.
It's funny how you're encouraging me, and William Neal's encouraging me, and many other people. And at the same time, I'm encouraging Stephen Patterson because I think it's a crime that his stuff isn't shared, and it would blow you away to see all that stuff put together.
Do you think he would?
What's that?
Do you think he'd be willing to come on the show?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, nice.
You would be blown away. And I was messaging with Jim, and I don't mind. I mean, here's the thing. When I see something that's extraordinary, and like I said, anything in this world I see, I want to share with everybody. And when I see this body of work that no one's ever seen, it's like unbelievable. How could you have 1,000 images that are so top notch? and or even more than that, like endless images. And I think that has to be shared with the world. And even Stephen and I talked about doing something together, but we have so many ideas, like so many people, but it's different to have ideas, and the other thing is to execute them into in your daily life. And anyway, so that's cool. Wow, there you go.
That was great stuff.
Yeah.
Paul's gonna need a cigarette.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, those are some of the best dick pics I've ever seen.
You know it.
That is so funny.
I got a freaking pack ready to
Oh
go.
my god.
So Eric, are you saying that if I made a selfie, which I don't do because I'm so uncomfortable with myself, and I sent it to somebody, would that be called that?
Well, better yet, that'll be the title of your book when you do make one.
Oh, dude, that's gonna launch.
Oh, that the pre-sales are already coming in.
Absolutely.
Yes. So
I just
good.
bought a condo in Brazil.
Yes. I love it. Yeah.
Well, I'm from New York, and we have a representative, Anthony Weiner. So
Oh.
Anthony Weiner.
yeah,
That's a pretty common last name, though, surprisingly.
it is. But he also, unfortunately, did send such pics.
He
This
did.
is stuff that's made for late night comedy, right? Like
Exactly.
Jimmy
No,
Fallon.
the comedians didn't really know what to do with it.
No, it's like it's too perfect a gift to have for comedy, right? Sometimes comedy it's like the real thing is funnier than the comedy, right? Sometimes. Yeah.
That's so true.
Oh man.
I'm glad we finally got you on. You'd been on my list since I started the show, but it just takes a while to get through everybody when we only do one guest episode per month. So
of course. Yeah, it's like that's great. So I appreciate you having me coming on, and it was certainly an honor. A little bit nervous coming in, but
But you did great.
No, you crushed it, Richard.
I feel like I talk too much, and sometimes it's weird. Like when I'm doing these big auditorium stuff, I had one time there was 600 people in the auditorium, and I had a 50-foot screen, and I'm at a podium, and I'm thinking, shit, this stuff looks good on the screen. It's like 50 feet wide. I've never seen my pictures that big before.
yeah,
Are these mine? But anyway, the thing is, when I'm standing there and I can see people's faces, and I can see their reaction to what I'm showing. So fast forward to current days when I'm doing stuff like I did seminars in South Africa and UK and stuff like that. I'm talking away. I don't hear or see anything. And I'm just thinking, Jesus, I'm talking a lot, but I'm supposed to be, but I just feel so weird. And I've done a lot of these and I still can't get used to them, but it's different here, of course. It's not the same thing, but you know what I mean? If you've done presentations.
yeah, you're not just talking into a black hole here.
Yeah.
You can see our faces and our reactions.
Yeah. And I know, Eric, you mentioned the first time, first time you did out of Chicago. I don't know if it was the first time I did it as well. I'm not sure, but it was 4 years ago.
I think it was. Yeah, it was our first year.
And you mentioned that you're used to doing video recordings where you have the potential to tweak them a little bit.
Yeah.
Versus, and you said that there was a different thing, right? So that was a bit new for you as well, right?
Yeah, I'd given in-person presentations where you can totally gauge the audience's interest. You can know if you need to keep talking about a certain image or move on. You can gauge their response and stuff by seeing their faces and the energy in the room. But yeah, online you get none of that. So it's pretty weird.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting. But, in terms of guides, I feel bad because I think my work was every bit as good back in the day. And I have thousands of transparencies that some of them are still in carousels where I was teaching with. And I think, what a sad thing that no one's ever going to see these. When I tried a little bit of scanning, but you know what? I can't even process the work I have. How can I even scan all this stuff? It makes me kind of panicky. But when I pass on, I mean, who's going to give a shit about that stuff, right? So it's.
I think people will still care. I mean, your work is timeless, so.
Yeah, that's
people
the
are going to be
reason why
raving about it.
you got to get it into books and stuff, so it's actually on paper, right?
Well, and that's why it's nice to be friends with young guys like me. I'm going to keep talking about you for decades and decades after you go.
Oh, right. Well, that's nice. That's nice. You're the same.
That's kind of morbid, but honest, it is true. Like,
Well, I appreciate that.
I'll take
but
care of you.
I hope it's not coming too soon.
He was placing bets last week. There's
a lottery, right?
Yeah, we wanted to get this episode done on time, you know.
Come on, man. He's gonna work soon.
Yeah, it was just,
So Paul, when I come out that way, I'll look you up. I haven't figured it out yet, but it's all new to me. But I'm definitely going to spend some time, probably both before and after a conference, and yeah,
that'd be really cool. Yeah, I've got
I love Portland. I think Portland is an amazing city, and it's right in line with my stuff.
Yeah, I've got a decent place to stay, so definitely, if you come out this way, don't book a spot. I've got plenty of room here at my house. If you want, and that'd be awesome. Love to hang out with you.
Yeah,
some beers, go shoot, whatever.
I could give you some free one-to-one feedback.
Yeah, love it. That'd be awesome.
It's funny. I'm in teaching mode all the time, even though I shouldn't be, and I can't help it. But I'm not in teaching. I don't mean like teaching, but I'm just always in auto mode for helping people, even if I don't even know them on this.
I love it. That's awesome.
Honestly one of the reasons I like drinking beer. Like, I don't like getting drunk, but it's like the one time where I can just like make my brain like dumber and just like kind of quiet down, just like with a slight buzz. Like, it's really hard for me to turn it off otherwise. So it's just like finally calming down and chilling out. See, otherwise I'm just like always going, creating stuff, thinking of stuff. And it's like frustrating because I don't have enough time to even do it all.
Yeah.
I think a lot of creative people tend to have a similar personality traits. I know that. I know from musicians that I know and stuff are very similar personality traits, and you can label those traits, but it doesn't really matter what you label them as. But the personality traits are, and I think that's why people are highly creative. It's not like some special thing, but I didn't ask to be how I am. That's the way your genetics and stuff are, but
just leaning into your nature.
Yeah. But I know that, if you try and change that, it might affect your, no one's perfect and no one's.
Yeah. If you suppress it, it's like horrible for you.
You're just a zombie. Right. You're a zombie, right? Like, yeah. So I would take the inefficiencies any day over. I wouldn't want to do anything that would affect my creativity and my vision. So
yeah, that's why eventually I did cut back like a few months ago on drinking, even though I was only drinking like 5-7 beers a week. Now I drink like 3, maybe 5 a week. Only on the weekends. I take like the whole week off just so I can just kind of keep that focus and stuff throughout the week while I'm working on stuff. And that way, like at night I can still work, cause I'm not drinking or anything, but.
Yeah. Do you find that, you tend to enjoy it more with food, or is it you can do it elsewise? I mean, it depends, right? But I
don't like to drink with food unless it's like a lager, like a really basic beer. I like to drink after I eat by itself.
I love red wine with food, and
like with meat.
And it's all. I'm a vegetarian. I'm vegan, but so that would be tough. But I know with food, just a taste of all the taste.
Yeah, and, I like wine with like steak and stuff for sure.
It's also like with coffee. I have a hard time drinking coffee alone without a chocolate or something. It's weird. It's just a weird thing. I don't know what that is.
When I drink coffee, I like to just sit and just drink my coffee, like just do that and nothing else. Like, I love coffee.
That's a good point. I love coffee too. And I'm referring to really good coffee, but I'm referring to black coffee. And when it's like, when it's done as a latte and stuff like that, I don't like, I can drink that without eating, but with just black coffee, really like a Shiraz coffee. I like chocolate or some food with it, but I find same thing for beer and stuff. So I've used when I was younger, of course, we could pound them back without food, but as I'm
gotta have a full stomach,
certifiably older, I tend to do it more with food.
That's cool.
But except for the tailgate parties. But I gotta say, those IPAs with the juicy IPAs with the papaya and stuff like that, they're decent. They're enough to drink alone. They don't need to pair them with something, although they have pairing suggestions.
Once you hang out with me and I show you the stuff that we drink, you'll change your mind for sure.
Course. Oh, of course. And I tried a couple of sours, but I didn't maybe get the right ones. But I'm kind of like old school with the other stuff. Yeah.
We got to figure out a border crossing to get you some. I got some shit for you, dude.
There's some old underground tunnels that are still exist.
I'm gonna do some homework next week. So
You're not too far from Jimmy, so
No, it's pretty close.
Oh yeah, I can drive down. I can drive down to Jimmy's and get that stuff.
Yeah.
if he
Lord
did
knows
that, he could give you some IPAs that would blow your mind.
So Jimmy, what would be halfway to meet?
Probably Syracuse. I can bring all the cans that are labeled EB on them.
So Syracuse is 3 hours for me because I used to fly from Syracuse to New York City and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm 3 hours to Toronto. I'm 3 hours to Montreal, 3 hours to Syracuse. So depending on where I'm going, I've got.
So what do you say at that border crossing when they're like, "What's your business?" You're like, "Beer."
I'm a beer importer.
Yeah.
See, that's the funny thing. You can totally drive across the border with beer, but like shipping beer even from state to state, you need a license and stuff like that. Like it's illegal.
Weird. Is that in Canada the same way? I mean, it's weird because all the wines and the beers and stuff, they're restricted to each province. So
yeah, you can drive across the U.S. with beer in your car and have zero issues.
But you can't.
But when you want to ship it to somebody else that's over 21, there's
it's so complicated. It doesn't need to be so complicated.
Nobody enforces it, but yeah, it's not legal, strictly speaking.
Right.
Interesting.
So we don't do it, obviously.
Yeah.
We talk about it, but
Yeah. How nice it would be.
Yeah.
it would be cool to do that for sure.
Yeah.
It's bad when
We
they
should
open
rent
the
a
trunk
van
and
sometime.
there's beer and there's a body in the trunk. It's very awkward. Could you explain the beer?
Yes.
Or what about the body?
Exactly. So, that's all secondary.
Yeah. It's just... anyway, so cool.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Richard. I know it's late where you are
Yeah,
now,
thank you.
but
Yeah.
It was fun.
thank you
You guys
for
are great.
This was really
entertaining
nice.
us.
You guys and gals. I'm sorry to say guys. It's just a thing you say, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't care. It's all good.
But it's
I'm not
amazing how you
offended.
put up with them, Jennifer.
What was that?
It's amazing how you put up with
Dude,
Oh,
she's
Caught on.
she's dishing it worse than, I mean, come on.
So what's
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna have to
final
have a-
score?
She
I'm gonna
can
have a talk with her in the green room after this.
Yeah. What's the final score here with the
She can
Bazingas?
hang.
I'm just trying to keep up.
I remember. I can remember one of the shows like was Sarah Marino was on. Like you guys were like pretty hard, man. You guys were going pretty hard on your guy
She-
talk. I could.
She didn't have to put those photos on the internet.
Oh, man.
That's funny, man. But yeah, you have to have a sense of humor and.
Yeah, it was good. That was good.
I think creative people
That's-
do have a sense of humor. You know, they have a different perspective on life.
It'd
and
be-
Is that
don't take things so
the milk
seriously.
episode?
Yeah.
It'd be hard not to. I can't imagine not having a sense of humor if you're creative. I think.
Yeah. But everybody acts so serious, you know, like they're these solemn, depressed artists.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. We had an exorcism that day. That was crazy. That was pretty early on too.
Are you talking
Yeah.
about the Sarah Marino one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was our second guest on the show.
That was early.
Yeah.
You guys are.
Swung
You guys
It was
Off
after,
the
yeah, our
rails.
first guest was Bellino, and I think Sarah was number 2.
Yeah, we've softened up a little bit.
Yeah. Not as eager to spill blood.
Paul, you're pretty well behaved there tonight.
Yeah, I
He's quiet.
don't call it a comeback. I had to I had to I needed some redemption.
He was drunk.
I definitely needed some redemption.
Yeah. It's good to have an aggregate of people.
Yes.
If we were all the same, it'd be a pretty boring world, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Oh
totally.
gosh, could you imagine?
Indeed.
There's nothing like the diversity of people.
Yep.
All right. Well, good stuff, you guys. Thanks again, Richard.
You have to check
Cheers,
out.
everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
There's a black coffee I have here.
Ooh,
Yes.
at night, huh?
Where we say chug, 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 chug.